The people who can and choose to, who want to just get out of the whole Earth drama completely, will be able to go up, to at least out of density 1. So there are these various paths that are being created because of the dramas that are here. The only thing that's sad is the people that are right now being directed into the other paths that are taking them in the Phantom are not being told the options. The Ruby Orders are not teaching theirs that there is any option but the one they're offering. The founders are simply trying to show you what the big game is, so one thing is honored, your free will choice. The others are not honoring free will choice. So we're going to watch what looks like a division begin to happen. It's already happening, but it's going to happen more. Now, if things go well, we get enough D12 frequency on the planet, more and more of the side that would have gone into Phantom will be able to shift over to the bridge zone. They probably won't make it into the full ascension path because of their DNA issues with the reverse coding, but they will be able to make it into the bridge zone path. That's a good thing. But in the meantime, there is going to be a separating effect. You're going to see it happening, a polarization. You're going to see it happening more and more between countries, between groups of people, within the New Age movement, within the UFO movement, within the churches, between the governments. It's going to start doing this. But in one sense it's sad, but in another sense it isn't. And here's where understanding on a really high level and realizing a little bit about how avatars understand and how Source thinks. If they were all be able to come into the inner earth, the souls that are still here, raping, doing pillage, doing anything they can to cause harm because they think they have a right to or they think they should, would the Taliban do well in being entrusted, taken into inner earth? Would they be a threat to other civilizations there? People that think with those kind of mentalities, not just the Taliban, they're just an example. There are lots of souls on this planet that are still very young, let's say, in their spiritual maturity and remembering. Those souls, many of them will respond better to the learning that will take place through the path of Arimathea. That's why I wish that Archangel Michael Matrix would lay off already and stop trying to mess with me and the people that work with me, because we're not saying that that path is all bad. It's not a good one. They're connected to the path of Arimathea too. That's what the Michaels are trying to feed you into. Some of them are going to take you actually into the other one, the worst one. But there is a good thing to this. It is allowing something that for 250 billion years has not been allowed here, where the peaceful people could live peacefully and the ones who wanted to do war could live warfully. Sometimes the only way to learn to be peaceful is to create so much war you can't stand it anymore. But when you're creating that war with people who want to be peaceful, after a while the balances get thrown off. And because Phantom Matrix at this point has so much energy in it, running on reverse, that it could pull this whole matrix in, that has to be stopped. But there's a divine justice in this, not an angry God or a wrathful God, not a punishment, simply saying this group of beings needs these lessons before they're going to be capable of evolving peacefully. They've created for themselves a reverse matrix. If we can at least help a little part of that to have a potential where eventually, if they run around and show themselves for a while, that it's not going to work that way. They can't keep taking advantage of nice people anymore because there's none left. The ones that could hold the frequencies of love, that could hold the frequencies of even partial Christ consciousness, would end up on this side of the matrix, not in the Phantom. It's only the ones with the real issues to work out that would end up there. If they were separated, it would be like a quarantine that they created for themselves. God, they have the opportunity. They can take a redemption contract we've been asking for eons. They've always been invited back. And they still are. But not through this particular matrix anymore, because this is now a matrix that needs healing because it's been so harmed by them. So it's not a mean path that we're on. We're not saying you guys are bad guys, so you have to go there. They're making that choice themselves by positioning themselves against us. We're bringing in the Christos blueprint and saying, come home. Come home, be with us. I don't care if you were Archangel Michael for the last billion years. You don't have to keep doing that. Aim higher. Doesn't that get old after a while? Try being nice. You might like it. That's the attitude the founders have, and that's the attitude we represent. We bring them love, even though very often what we get thrown back at us is hatred. Hatred is just a symptom of a disease. And if we can understand that, we won't take it personally. And it will also allow us to stay strong enough where we can do what needs to be done here. When we do round tables, we're simply resetting the divine blueprint piece by piece. That's what humans were created to do. You're going to have round tables that are being run by the others and grid work that's being run by the others. We have probably from now until 2011, when certain events are going to take place that are a little too complicated to explain, but they're in Voyagers Volume 2. There's like a whole bunch more pages of information. But there's going to be this power struggle happening. Back and forth, back and forth. We'll do grid work, they'll try to counter it. We'll do other grid work, they'll try to counter that. Tit for tat, tit for tat. They're following us around, basically. Right now, what's being done with certain grids up here in Canada has to do directly with the fact that they tried to do something nasty that involves merging wormholes to make them bigger. That we did a round table in Peru and sent the frequencies to the Gruol, and it blocked them from doing that. So they're not too happy about it. So now they're going to try to do something with the grids up here to get enough power in order to keep furthering their agenda. So we're going to talk about that like more specifically, but I want to get to first a bit on the Nibiru Datic crystal grid. There is two. You can look at these pages quickly on your own if you want to, because I don't need to go through them. I already went through them in more detail. 163 in your books shows the creation of the Leviathan force and related history. It's a larger context of what you just saw with the breakdown on the Leviathan races. It shows the bigger context that was taking place within, just a rough rundown on it. And the other one is like a recap all on one sheet of the progression of the Atlantean conspiracy. So it just shows you the date line, basically, to give you, I find them a lot easier. You can at least see, and just looking at the progression of this, this is just a small amount of it. These are the bigger events. There are millions of little events in between all of these that led to where we are right now. Okay, where am I? Where is the stuff on? I'd like to do the stuff on the Nibiru crystal grid. Oh, the Atlantean maps. I want to show those first. Yeah. Are they in there, love? The Atlantean maps? Page 165 and 166 in the books. Are they in there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. This one is the Atlantic and Pacific continents, 50,000 BC to 28,000 BC. Okay? Now, this is where the tribal or native legends of the world being created on the back of a turtle came from. There are certain tribes that have carried that story. It was the sea turtle. That was kind of what it was called. It was, that particular continent was often referred to as the sea turtle because it kind of looked like, head up here, tail down here, and the little sea flipper coming out there. All right, it was known historically since Atlantis, the times of Atlantis, as the sea turtle. All right, this one over here, this is where the Lemurian continent was. And these, there are different areas of it. Ediani was up here, the upper portion. I can't even pronounce this one. I can't pronounce it, to be honest with you. I have to fight with that. But this was this is all called Maravi. It wasn't called Lemuria. Lemuria was the name of the root race that was seated there. It wasn't the name of the continent. It was the name of the race that was the predominant root race that was seated there. There were other races that were there too, called the Mua races, that came out of the original Palladia cloister races that were the Indigo Gray Lines. They were also there. So you ended up with Mua and Lemurian races living here, and it was the there's another one, Marahavi, that's an E sound on the end, Marahavi continent. So it was smaller, a bit smaller in land mass, because right in here, there's huge amounts of interior lakes to begin with. Like, it wasn't a solid continent here. It had like ins and outs where a lot of this was water to begin with. These areas are what became eventually the Hawaiian Islands. This one was Dulrumen Murahavi, this area down in here. Now, when we look at Atlantis, the Atlantean continent, we had the Brenoa Empire, which was in Brua, Atlantis, right down in this area in the tail, and that's where Florida was a part of that. Stargate 2, which was right in here, the Gruol Point, that was part of that landmass. Okay, they were considered the southwest territories of Atlantis. The Empire was up in through here, in through the center area. That was called Nahassa, and it was the south central territories. And then over here, you had the Iani and Mua empires in Lohas, Atlantis. It's actually all up and through here. Now, Lohas, Atlantis were the northeast territories, and these are the areas that had the grids literally sucked in the phantom. Literally, there was the cataclysmic explosion that I told you about in 50,000 BC. That reduced these to 3 island areas, and this up in here on the maps today is still there. That is the England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales area, and that is still part of that continent. So they were really there. And all right, over here we had Ionia, where Italy is now, and it's still there, but it was called Ionia. It was an empire composed of races and Mua races, and these go back to the descendants of the Palladia cloister races, Urtite cloister races. Okay, and there were exiled Iani races here from the Iani empires over here, because here you had Iani and Mua as well. The Iani and Mua were considered the high council races because they carried the most. They were the blue flame races. They carried the most coding, where they had the coding of the others as well in the DNA templates. So the ancient Lemuria, it came down in history as Lemuria, it was the Iani and Mua mother empire, Mojave Pacific continent, the crescent moon, that was called. That's where a lot of your moon ceremonies and lunar stuff, like combination between Merkaba stuff from the lunar salutations and literally the crescent moon. There were moon celebration things that were done there in commemoration with it. You have to remember, in the ancient days, a lot of this was seen from spaceships. When you were coming in, to visit, it wasn't as if we saw things the way they are now. We had, everybody at certain points in history had the ability to go through gates or to see something from harmonic 2 because you went through a gate up there, and to perceive it down here. Everybody could ride on a spaceship if they wanted to. So the races identified the shapes of things as they would be perceived from the air. This becomes very important, like in naming things and in designing things as well. It becomes very important when we get into understanding the Atlantean, the APIN systems, which are Atlantean Pylon Implant Network systems, because they were all designed from the air. And we'll get into that when we get into the new stuff in a little bit. But first, I want to take you through that. Now, somewhere is the other map that shows what they became, what these areas became after. All right, this was 71, wait, let me finish this, I just forgot. Homo Lemurians from 71,000 BC to 50,000 BC. It was reduced to islands in 50,000 BC in the Lemurian Holocaust. Over here, you had ancient Atlantis, the Brenoa, and Mua Iani empires. Kemalo Amicus Atlantic continent. Kemalo Amicus was actually the name of the whole continent. It was not Atlantis, but Atlantis is easier to say. Now, Kem was also a name that was later used to call Egypt. Camelot came out of there, and this name came out of the inner earth civilizations that were inhabited by the original Palladia cloister empires that had to leave planet because they were breatharians and they couldn't stay here. So it's all connected. All right. This was the sea turtle from the air, home of the Atlanteans and the Mua and Anu Melchizedeks from 68,000 BC to 28,000 BC, and they had history here before that, but this is like the immediate Atlantean history and stuff. Reduced to 3 island nations in 28,000 BC in the Atlantean Holocaust. This is where those 3 island nations end up being, and over here are the areas where we still have of the Pacific continent. Yes, stand there, please. Thank you. The one that was the lower, the Dolmen Mojave, which was Lemuria. It's now Easter Island. Okay, and this is not a scale map. Okay, but Easter Island is really like closer here. It's off the coast of Chile, isn't it? Or Chile and Peru, Chile, I think. Yeah. So these are just like kind of strung out so I could get stuff into point arrows and you can see it clear. All right. This one that I still can't pronounce. Did you remember how to pronounce that one? I don't know. That's worse than tribe names. Yeah, the I one. It's now the French Polynesian Islands. And the Idiani Mojave is now Kauai, Hawaii, and some of the peripheral islands that are around it. But Kauai was the center area of that. That is the home of the Q site that goes with SG-12. Q site 12, Stargate 12, Q site. And Sirius B, Halls of Amareya Passage. Now the Halls of Amareya Passage, we talked about briefly somewhere, I forget where we were having a Cathara, we were looking at the Cathara grid, and we have the three pillars, how those Cathara centers connect. The path of Amareya is the one that leads from 12 to 9 to 6 to 3, and then into like 1 and 2. So it's the, yeah, I get dyslexic with that. Depends on whether it's on you or whether you're looking at it, whether it's the right or left-hand side. But it's the
left side looking at it.
Left side, yeah, left side looking at it, but it's actually the right side with, you know, in yourself. Yeah. All right. Well, this is where this is like a safety valve in the planetary Templar complex that was left from Seeding 2. Seeding 2 races incarnated through the path of Amareya, the Halls of Amareya Passage. And there had been damage done to it through the wars in Seeding 2, through the 1,000 Years' War. And that's when the Ark of the Covenant portal passage was created to bypass some of the damage so souls could come in to incarnate in for Seeding 3 to begin. So Seeding 3 souls came in, most of them, came in through the Ark of the Covenant. Now, when the distortions started happening really bad in the grids, they were picking up all the distortions from the stargates. So the Halls of Amareya were repaired on the higher levels. The gates were repaired. So all of the Iani Grail lines, the Indigo Grail lines, and the humans, particularly the Iani, some humans would come that way depending on how far up, depending on how much avatar integration that they'd had in the last lifetime. But all of the Indigos, Indigo types 1 and 2, incarnated directly through the Amareya Passage because it would allow them to come in through Sirius B, Gate 6, without picking up the distortions from Stargate 5 and Stargate 4 that had been compromised by the Anunnaki and Draconian races, primarily Anunnaki. So that's where it came down. And interestingly, as we progressed in our adventure of learning in this last year or so, we were asked to go to Kauai, and we did a round table there to anchor the frequencies of opening the Halls of Amareya Passage. Because through the Halls of Amareya Passage, Universal Stargate 6 can run larger amounts of frequency of D12, of Kundera and Kirushe, because we were going into such a crisis issue after the United Resistance was formed and made their Edict of War. The Crisis Intervention Program began with early activation of Stargate 6 Sirius B, in order to get, which opened the Amareya Passage, in order to get enough frequency into the Templar so we could prevent the pole shift. Now it's a matter of using the frequency that's becoming available through the Amareya Passage to run our rounds. This is why we're able to get enough frequency in to even run the rounds right now. So that was done in May of 2001, right? Yeah. May of 2001, Halls of Amareya Passage were opened. Okay, next one. Let's see. I want to see how far. Let me get to that. I want to get to, see how far we got till. Okay. Yeah, I would like to do like 5 o'clock prompt break so we can be back no later than 6:30 from a dinner break. Because I want, you know, there's stuff I want to cover before we have to do the round, and we have to do that by 8:30. We have to start it. Okay? Yeah. Well, 8:30 is pushing it. All right, because it's between the activation cycle on the thing we're clearing is between 7:30 and 9, I think 9. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll fit that in. I just want to see. We still have a bit of time, and I can get through this part. This gets fun. Okay, on page 167 left and 168 I'm going to need up. And then I'm going to go right into the graph that'll explain a lot. And this will get me up to where I wanted to be before dinner, so that's good. Good. Okay, then what we can do is just put this thing about Nibiru and the Merkaba reversals and all that jazz. Okay.
AKA planetary Merkaba reversal. The 33 clockwise, 11 counterclockwise versus 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise dilemma. The natural 33 electrical clockwise, 11 magnetic counterclockwise ratio of planetary and biological harmonic Merkaba field rotation maintains the organic 3 parts base electrical antiparticle to 1 part base magnetic particle relationship. That is the organic D12 Christos divine blueprint. All right. Upon which the density 1 system, that's dimensions 1, 2, and 3, is structured. In 25,500 BC, the Earth's planetary electrical, that's the top harmonic Merkaba field, began functioning on a reverse rotation, top 34 counterclockwise magnetic pole reversal. In 34,770 BC, Earth's magnetic, that's the bottom, planetary harmonic Merkaba field, began functioning on a reverse rotation, bottom 21 clockwise electrical pole reversal. Earth's 34 counterclockwise to 21 clockwise Merkaba field pole reversal occurred as a result of 2 historical events, during which the Anunnaki fallen angelic races of Nibiru gained control of D4 Solar Gate 4. Solar Stargate 4 has been used since 3470 BC to override Earth's natural 33 clockwise, 11 counterclockwise planetary shields harmonic Merkaba field alignments, placing Earth and the planetary Templar complex under remote Nibiruan control. Since the 25,500 or 25,500 BC Lucifer Rebellion and the 3470 BC Babylon Massacre, the unnatural spin ratios of Earth's density 1 and part of density 2 harmonic Merkaba fields has been following a mutated top 34 counterclockwise to bottom 21 clockwise anti-Christos reverse rotation, rather than the natural top 33 clockwise, bottom 11 counterclockwise spin ratio of Earth's organic D12 Christos divine blueprint. The unnatural 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise planetary Merkaba spin ratio reversed the natural 33 clockwise, 11 counterclockwise spin ratio on dimensional subharmonics 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 11 of the human Merkaba fields. The unnatural polar reversed 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise Merkaba mutation caused the natural fire letter sequences of the magnetic base codes in DNA strand templates 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 11 of the angelic human 12-strand DNA template to run in reverse. Reversal of base code fire letter sequences in DNA strand templates 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 11 has prevented the natural angelic human evolutionary processes of higher strand activation, strand braiding, embodying the universal life force currents, and higher dimensional spiritual identity integration since 3470 BC. And I should add, by the way, that we're rounding the numbers when we're referring to 33 and 11. We're aware that it's 33 and a third, 11 and 2/3. We're just not saying it's a big mouthful. Okay, the antichristic external Merkaba and Nibiru. The full natural Christos Merkaba spin ratio of density 1 is 33 and a third, as I've just mentioned, clockwise, and 11 and 2/3 counterclockwise. This natural Merkaba spin ratio creates an electromagnetic antiparticle-particle balance of 33 and 1/3 parts base electrical antiparticles, which is expanding energy, to 11 and 2/3 parts base magnetic particles, contracting energy, or 33 and 1/3 electrical oscillations to 11 and 2/3 magnetic vibrations per 1 Merkaba ratio within the rotation within the natural density 1 matter base. More electrical thrust than magnetic draw, a higher frequency, less dense, self-perpetuating, eternal Christos matter base that functions in perpetual motion upon a natural structure of internal Merkaba fields that perpetually circulate universal life force currents between the non-manifest consciousness of Source and the expressions of Source manifestation. The unnatural 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise anti-Christos Merkaba spin ratio creates an electromagnetic antiparticle-particle balance of 34 parts base magnetic particles, that's contracting energy, to 21 parts base electrical antiparticles, which is expanding energy, or 34 magnetic vibrations to 21 electrical oscillations per 1 Merkaba rotation, with the density 1 matter base of Earth and its inhabitants. More magnetic draw than electrical thrust, a lower frequency, more dense, self-consuming, finite, anti-Christos matter base that functions for a limited time upon inorganic structures of externalized Merkaba fields that vampire and consume life force energy from other organic systems in order to self-sustain. The planet Nibiru functions on a 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise reverse orbit and reverse Merkaba field alignment. The Nibiruan and Anunnaki biology also follows the 34 counterclockwise, 21 clockwise reverse Merkaba rotation. Both the planet and its people are finite and unable to perpetuate life through self-generated ascension and embodiment of the eternal Maharata, Kirashe, and Kundare universal life force currents. The Nibiruans keep their planetary Templar and stargates functional by draining energy from other living planetary bodies via unnatural external Merkaba field linking. Merkaba structures that are external to, or not naturally a part of, the intrinsic D12 Christos divine blueprint for our time matrix. Doodaloo.
Is the dynamics of how the Nibiruan dodic crystal grid was attached to our planet and how it's sustained. All right, now I talked about the Nibiruan dodic crystal grid as a bunch of crystal pylons, all right, big selenite crystal rods. They were originally brought from Nibiru and put on Earth, and a twin set put on parallel Earth. So what we're having here, in order to understand the dynamics by which the Merkaba reversal of the planet has taken place through this, we need to keep an eye on a bit both our Earth and the parallel system, because there's a direct interface that takes place where you might think, what in the world would have enough energy to be able to pull a planet's Merkaba, out of its normal alignment? That's like taking a planet and taking it out of its normal orbit around its sun. You can't just go up and grab it. I mean, you don't run an airplane into it, it's not going to move, It takes a lot, and it takes very sophisticated mechanics, an understanding of how Merkabas are supposed to work, so you can figure out how they're not supposed to work but could do you a favor. It was all done through advanced Merkaba mechanics taken into the Anti-Christos application. Now, there's a lot of information on this graph. I will try to explain the most important parts. I would suggest, just when you have a bit of time, just read all the little parts, because they each tell you a bit about what's going on here. By the time you read them, I think you'll be able to, from what I explain here and from what's on there, you'll probably be able to say, oh, all right, I basically get how, how that technology was used and has been being used until very recently. All right, here we have the solar gate, all right, the sun, right? Here we have the planets that would normally evolve around the sun, all right, revolve around the sun. We had, running from, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron, which actually, Chiron was connected to Nibiru originally. It was like a moon of Nibiru before this went someplace else, and I'll show you where else it went. This is the solar Merkaba field here, okay? You have the electrical one here, and you have the magnetic one here, I believe, yeah. And the solar one is supposed to run on 33 1/3 by 11 2/3. All right, that's when it's working right. You have your moon here. This becomes important. You have Earth, you have moon, okay? You have Earth's Merkaba, it's magnetic Merkaba doing what it's supposed to here. All right, this is the normal alignment. Now right here, there's actually another planet. It was called Maldak, and it was destroyed in Seeding 2. There were a bunch of wars, and during the 1,000 Years' War period, it was destroyed. It was literally blown up. And now what we have here is the asteroid belt that's between Mars and Jupiter. That's the remnants of Maldak. Okay, so this is how things are supposed to work over here. Now, originally Nibiru had the same type of rotation and the same, Merkaba field spin rates as any density 1 planet was supposed to have when it was on its Christos blueprint. Originally, it was a planet that was part of our solar system. Now, over here was the parallel version of that. And it's the same. See how they're actually like the reverse spiral? But the parallel operates on that principle. And there was a parallel Nibiru before its orbit got reversed. There's parallel Earth before it ended up with grid distortions. This is what's going into roll in the next few years. The parallel moon. And so you just notice the difference here. Here, it's an electrical coming. You have the primary electrical. That's the dominant one in parallel Earth. Magnetic is the primary dominant Merkaba field on Earth. So just notice when you're looking at the diagram how things are spiraling, right? It's all telling you, basically, this is the basic structure of how galactic Merkaba plugs in to a solar system through the suns that literally creates. This is what creates the orbit planes that planets evolve around their suns on. It's the spinning of the Merkaba fields that create the spinning of the planets, that fuel the energy dynamics, that create the electrical magnetic fields that allow planets to evolve around suns and to stay in position. All right, now down here at the bottom, I'll show you this a bit. All right, this is the galactic Merkaba, okay? That would be the sun at the center, and this would be the orbital plane of the particle universe, or the particum universe, ours, and then literally running in its opposite in the same place is the antiparticle universe, the parallel, right? Now normally the planets were evolving on this rotation, all of them. There are certain things done to Nibiru that involve even more weird things up in the higher harmonic, the higher density of the phantom matrix. They have to do with the planet I talked to you a little bit about, I think yesterday. It was called Tiamat. There was a part of Terra. They've used that, and they've used an artificial link between Tiamat, the solar gate, and Sirius A up through Arcturus. They've literally created a set of false Merkaba fields that link reverse matrix planetary grids together, so they create a very strong, it's almost like creating an anti-Christos infrastructure for their universe. This has been done over billions of years, but I believe Nibiru is literally, there's a saying that comes to mind that I first heard when my beloved husband said it in reference to something. He said, it goes up and down like a bride's nightie. I remember thinking, what? Oh, it was kind of funny. Well, it's been up in its right rotation, then it's been sucked down into phantom, then it's been turned back around again and put back up and moved back down again. This place has gone through pole shift more than I think anything in our local system, because it's a primary spot because it connects directly to Solar Stargate 4, Universal Solar Stargate 4. So it's always just like Earth connects to Solar Stargate 3 Universal. That's why these two places were very important in the history of this time matrix. So this strange-looking orbit here is what happened in Nibiru. It used to be in this plane with the rest of ours in our galaxy, and its parallel used to, be in that plane also in parallel. There were dynamics made using external Merkaba that harnessed a piece of, I believe it was, what was a piece of Maldak? It was either a piece of Maldak or a piece of Tiamat. I forget which it was. I'd have to look for the specific detail. But let's see if it's on here. No, it isn't on here. But anyway, this is where Nibiru and Wormwood came to be. So you had planet Nibiru, and you'd have Battlestar Nibiru, which was called Wormwood in the Bible. That was the artificially created. It was literally a planet that was using artificial Merkaba and using stargates in ways they're not supposed to be used. They literally harnessed a large chunk of space debris, and I believe that, yep, that is, it was part of Maldak. That's why it comes through this orbit. That's right. Okay, I'm just reminding myself of stuff. I haven't done this one in a while. So you have Nibiru and Battlestar Wormwood. Wormwood was large enough to create a counterbalance. So literally, by dragging a piece of what used to be Maldak into an orbital plane with Nibiru and sending it on a different rotation, they keep each other in balance, and they create the foundations for an artificial Merkaba field that can be run in reverse. So they literally circulate now. Now this axis change, instead of it running this way, their Merkaba is now running this way at a different angle because it's being held by the higher gate systems that are reversed in phantom matrix. What they're trying to do is get this to happen to Earth, where we'd end up as like a satellite planet to Nibiru. But we go through a heck of a cataclysm. In the meantime, everything would get vaporized and reassembled when it got back to, to the phantom matrix, and it would be reassembled without any of its 12 imprints. It wouldn't have any of the D12 imprints, so it would be fragmented. So the forms that come out over on this side, once you get through that black hole of the phantom matrix, they are distortions. They are distortions of what the original was. So a person that got sucked through would not have the ability to hold as much consciousness or to keep themselves together or to think as clearly over there as they would be able to hear if they were running their D12 frequency. So anyway, what they're trying to do, this literally dips in and out of the phantom matrix. It circles up. When it comes into our system, it comes in, it has, well, it's not on this one, but it is in the book, I think. Let me look in the book. I have the exact orbital. Okay, all right. Nibiru and Wormwood pass into density 1, coming in behind the Sun and passing up between Mars and Jupiter, which was the every 3,657.8 years, remaining visible for 28 years. Last visible 46 BC through 18 BC. Nibiru do visible 3,611.8 AD through 3,639.8 AD. So it's not Nibiru that's coming in. Everybody's talking about, oh, Nibiru's going to come. The Zetas love this story. Oh, Nibiru's going to come. Nobody can stop it. Your place is going into cataclysm. You're going to have, like, fire, brimstone, and all that stuff. And we're here to try to help you through it. But it's because Nibiru comes in. And every time Nibiru comes in, it just so happens to disrupt the magnetics in your system, and it just so happens to throw you in a pole shift. Yeah, right? There's a lot of help doing this. What is taking place is, all right, first of all, this orbit, I want you to understand this orbit, it connects up into Sirius A. All right, so it literally, the whole, let's say, the matrix where this planet can circulate into our matrix and then back out into Phantom is up through Sirius A. It uses the Sirius A gate to circulate through. It goes through the solar gate, part of the Terran gate, and through the Sirius A gate. And that connects it directly through the 3 gates into Phantom. Now, what's coming in is Wormwood, the battle star. The way this orbit is held in motion to keep Nibiru in that orbit, that battle star has to be directly on the other end of it. So they have a completely, when one goes out, the other comes in. When one goes out, the other comes in. That's what allows that whole shift, unnatural shift in orbital plane to take place. Now we'll come back up to this stuff. Okay. This was how it's supposed to look normally, right? The solar Merkaba fields and how they plug into the planetary ones, how a planet plugs in through its sun into the galactic Merkaba field. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, here we go. This is a little challenging to try to explain verbally. Writing was a little easier. Okay, go back to Stonehenge and the Nibiru Endowed crystal grid, crystal implants. Okay, let's say this is on Earth, right? See that little hairy looking thing there? That's the Nibiru Endowed crystal grid crystals on Earth. There was another set of them also over here in parallel Earth that were on the exact same coordinate point, the point in the shields that where this place was the same place as that place, okay? It turned out where this was placed was between Q-Site 11 and Stargate 11. So when when Q-Site 11 would activate in the stellar activation cycle, it would send normal frequency through, it'd get hit by this thing, or run through that thing, get reversed, come back out and open Stargate 11 on a reverse matrix. The higher stargates will control the spin of the lower ones. So by getting Stargate 11, they would literally be able to reverse the entire Merkaba of the planet, which would take it directly into that same orbital. It would go through into the black hole system. Now, it's interesting is where'd that wormwood go? Is it like, what do you mean coming in? We may have some interesting things taking place in the next several years. There's a thing that's happening now. If this was allowed to do what it was doing, all right, if there wasn't something that was done during a stellar activation cycle, especially, that changed this whole lineup. Because see, there's a lineup here. This frequency, there's like a pillar of frequency that ran between Earth and parallel right through those grids, right through the Nibiru dotted crystal grid. Now, there's a complex thing that's taking place here. Here you have the solar gate, okay? Here you have Earth. Here you have wormwood. And here you have Nibiru. So when this rotates, now this has an energy beam, an electromagnetic beam, a sonic beam, that is anchoring in to Earth through the crystal grid. And even though the stones are there now, the tops aren't on them. So they're still transmitting the program that's still running reverse from parallel. Wormwood broadcasts to the Earth grid and anchors there, and that's where it sends it through Earth's shield, so it can literally change the angle of Earth's Merkaba. See how it's supposed to look? This is the angle now. See, this is the open spot, right? Look at it, it shifted it over this way. It's holding that angle through wormwood, and what's holding wormwood is Nibiru, and what's holding both of them all together is the sun. The sun was key to this. The sun is Solar Gate 4, or Universal Stargate 4. And a while back, before all the chaos began, certain Nibiruan races were trying to get their planet back into its normal order. They were going to, they had joined the Emerald Covenant, and they were finally, after quite a few thousand years of evolution of doing well on Nibiru, were entrusted as the Nibiruan Council. There was levels of it, Nibiruan Council of 9, 12, and 24. They were accepted into the Guardian Alliance teams as far as Stargate Guardians. And they were part guardians of Stargate 4. Well, they were, for a while, when we had our guys on the planet as well, they were full guardians of Stargate 4, and partial guardians of Stargate 5, the Terran Gate, which is the Alcyone Terran Gate. When they decided, the Nibiruans decided to do the United Anunnaki resistance stuff, and they defected. They literally used their Templar to get control of Gate 4. That allowed them the ability to create this artificial, demonic link. Think of these as broadcasting stations that form pillars of light, just like we form standing wave pillars when we do our rounds and things. These have been holding in our grids and holding the Earth's Merkaba on its unnatural rotation since 25,500 BC. Things got worse as these programs, the mathematics that were being sent here, once they had this link, and see, there's a parallel link. They had to do the same thing in the parallel system to be able to balance the grids, or they would have collapsed both of them. This is how it's all held in motion. If this planetary stargate's open, if the planet hits a stellar activation cycle with this configuration, it will immediately cause it to go into, within like a 3 or 4 year period after, I think, Gate 6 opens. Yeah, 3 or 4 years after that, it would just send it into a roll. It would clear the real estate. They were planning on that. That was part of their agenda, the Anunnaki agenda. Parallel Earth is at the point where this can't be reversed. Even if you took out this grid now, there's still too much damage done to the grids. They will never pick up enough grid speed, even if you immediately put them right back to their spin, where you could stop it from pole shifting. They're going. They're rolling. Over here, first of all, we're directly linked through this transmission beam. But even if we weren't linked through the Nibiruan grid, we are linked through the natural exchange of the Merkaba fields between parallel and here. There are very special things that are being done with the Trion Miage fields, the primal light and sound currents, the radial body mechanics that correspond to the Kirishé and the Kundere, real high frequency primal stuff. Where they're going to, this is what we're trying to help build. It's going to create a frequency that comes down and creates a barrier here so we don't roll as they start to go. That's after some of the other stuff gets done. The other stuff that needs to get done, and we've already started this, and this is part of what they're trying to counteract right now, because it was successful when it was done, to get this alignment back to its natural alignment so Earth can pass through the stellar activation cycle without going into roll, implies that these lines need to be broken. See, look at it. It's even anchored through the moon. The moon-sun connection, the Earth-wormwood connection, the wormwood-sun connection, all the way through to Nibiru. All of those artificial frequency structures need to be turned off, because if they're not turned off, it's going to roll. Now, turning them off means, first of all, here is the place where they anchor in Earth's grids. So there is the place that you can turn them off from, down here. To turn them off, you would simply, and this is what has already been done, you would run the divine blueprint into the planetary shields in that area, which would simply return all the reverse matrix codes to what they were supposed to be. So no matter how much this beamed in, as soon as it hit those grids, it'd reverse it to a crystal's current. It'd reverse it from an anticrystal's back to a crystal's current. However, what it will progressively do is send a backflow up, and it will sever that. Now, if that just severed without very important mechanics being done to catch that end of Earth's Merkaba, it would roll anyway. So what's being done, this has been dismantled so far. That was done in July of 2002, wasn't it? No, that's not here yet. 2001. July of 2001. And they're trying to get it hooked back up again. But this was done. Now, something called Trion Miage fields, using the Vecca codes. We've been progressively assisting the Guardians in learning how to build these. The Guardians know how to build them, and they've been building one to plug in, literally, using the primal currents, of the primal light and sound currents, to grab this end of the Merkaba, gently ease it back into alignment. And there's going to be a little bit of actually moving this too, so they gently come back into alignment. Without that, we'd be on evacs by now. All right. Now, once this is restored to where it's supposed to be, this is supposed to go back fully to this position, which means this point needs to come back to down here. Right. Then there's a little problem of this one, and this one, and this one. But what do you think might happen if you break any one of those? It's like something assembled with elastic bands. Yeah. So this is being worked on at the moment. See, the Nibiruans were offered a choice repeatedly. They knew that if we were successful in anchoring Divine Blueprint here, it was going to snap their line, which means they were going to roll. They didn't care. They don't care. They're not telling their own people that live on Nibiru. But the ones, Galactic Federation, all those guys, they know, they're expendable. They'll come back again. They've rolled so many times there, it's like they don't even care anymore. They don't look at life the same way that we do here. But this is why there's been so many efforts being made by the Guardian races to try to get them to work agreements, to try to say, come on, we don't have to keep fighting. This is really dumb. You know, because for us to do what we're here to do, which is reset Divine Blueprint, and at this point, that's absolutely necessary to protect the life field on this planet because of what they're doing. It's going to cause them a backlash. We're not doing it to them. They're doing it to themselves because all they had to do is stop these transmissions. They're frequency transmissions that run on perpetual motion external Merkaba generators that they have, you know, in their own Templar complexes. All they have to do is shut them off. That would break this link. They would have had help in getting their Merkaba back, getting their orbital back the way it was supposed to be. They were offered the same assistance that is being given now to assist Earth in getting her Merkaba back in space. But they rejected it. And at this point, Parallel's going to roll because of what they've done, and Nibiru is going to roll because of what they've done. Now, if this rolls, Solar Stargate 4 is in the process of being fully recoded. It's literally, we're breaking this connection, which will enable us to run Divine Blueprint through it and recode it back to its original structure, which means it goes back under protection of the Azerite Council, which are, you know, the Gate Council, the Templar security team. Then there's this little guy here, Wormwood. If you break that, and you break that, yeah, it's going to have a bit of a problem on its own. Now, right now, they haven't come up yet. They're not fully into our system yet. There is a chance that this will, or a piece of this will, come back up and we'll have some asteroid issues to deal with. Now, if it came back up whole, the thing has more mass than Earth does, because Nibiru is bigger and it had to balance Nibiru. It'd literally take out part of our solar system, not just our planet. So this is being watched closely by the Founders races. And when it begins, there's certain points where it can be blown up before it does any damage. And you can't do it at just any point. So they're watching at which point they can before it enters here. It comes up between Mars and Jupiter before it does that. Somewhere in through this cycle, as it's moving still through Phantom, they will try to reduce it to pieces. Some of those pieces may still be caught because you still have a Merkaba spinning, and it's going to start spinning and wobbling and those kind of things. They're going to try to stabilize this orbit until they can flatten it back down here, because it's going to throw all sorts of wacky things through the asteroid belt. You're going to get really weird electromagnetics happening. We're also having solar gate realignment. That started in 1972. But at this point, all of these things are being realigned. This is the little nasty setup that has kept us imprisoned for all these years. And there are various points. It anchors into Stonehenge, but there are a whole bunch of other grids that distribute it through the planetary shields and hold it there. There are 24 main points that are called Nibiruan Crystal Temple bases. They are the underground bases you hear about in the UFO movements. The underground bases in the UFO movements were put there because these are the control stations, the main broadcasting stations. Yeah, we can put this. Past workshop during this workshop, because it'll take up the time on this workshop. We could talk about it personally at some point if you want. I mean, he was talking about a meditation we did a while back in one of the workshops a while back, where we were connecting with our Rishi through the Orion gate, through the Mintaka gate. And that's just one of the things. It's like there's a million of those type of things that we've been led through for different reasons depending on the group. So it's very individual whether I'll be guided to do those. And those meditations aren't ones that are on tape. They're ones that come through where they're just there. It's like some part of me is just there and knows that this group needs to do this. And it's like an agreement we all had that I didn't know about, but I become aware of it and we go on journeys. Sometimes that happens. We'll probably do one of those by the end of tomorrow night, and they're just live. They're not written anyplace. And half the time, by the time I get done with it, I'm glad it's on tape, because sometimes you go so far that it's like, where did we start with this, Dirty? So that was about that. Now, I'm looking for one particular thing. Did you find the one with where it lists the... Yeah, that's the one. Here we go, where it gets to be more fun, because we start to find out where stuff is on the planet. Now, where those gates were. This is, again, showing you where the gates are. You know, the solar gate. This is the one that's still all marked up. Yeah, we have to get these redone eventually. Yeah, okay. So that's showing you the ones we just saw on the other transparency. Now, here's Earth's 24 primary signet locations, which means Stargate locations. Signet refers to its Stargate and its Q site, technically, the site that can be used to activate the gate. All right? The Stargate signet site is the gate itself, and the Templar Q site is the site that's used to activate it. So if you were going to go to activate a gate, you'd go to its Q site, not to the gate itself. Or you'd first go to the Q site, run frequency into the Q site, then go to the gate and pull energy up through the gate to create an activation on a gate. Gate number 1, the one that connects to parallel Earth and Theta Orion, South Pole, okay? Cyprus Island in the Mediterranean is its Q site. Okay, there's also a vortex that connects these together into the Painted Desert in Arizona. These are where the Sedona vortices are popping out. Okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, what page is that one on? Yeah. 170? 190. 190? Shouldn't be on 170. It's 170. Yeah. Now, fortunately, you have an index in the front, like a table of contents in the front, so you can find a lot of these things, you know, because I'm going out of sequence in some of this. I'm not just following it, you know, sequence in the book. I'm trying to get, like, the most important things, you know, to you first. But you can find, you know, if you look in the table of contents, you'll get an idea. Like, this is the maps and keys charts. This is from the maps and keys charts. It's telling you where. These are the maps. It's telling you where these gates connect to the corresponding gates on Earth and the Q sites that are used to activate the gates. If we're going to do energy work, you'd want to direct it usually toward the Q site, to throw it into the Q site to begin the activation of the corresponding gate. Now, mostly what we're doing with the with the roundtables and things that we're doing, we're not activating gates right now. That's not our job, it's not our business, and it's not our judgment call, because we don't have the knowledge here, anybody on the planet, to make that kind of decision, because there's all sorts of things that can happen if you open gates and they're not supposed to be opened yet, if the frequencies aren't right on the in the planetary grids. What we are doing is when the gates start their natural activation cycles, which they are doing now, they are beginning their opening cycles on their own because of that stellar bridge grounding event that I told you about. The cycle is going, and once it goes, it's on autopilot. There are a little bit of things you can do to balance it or to slow it down or speed it up, but it's going to fulfill itself, the stellar activation cycle, which means all of the planetary gates are going to open, whether or not the planetary body is ready to do that. If there are distortions in the planetary grids near any one of the gates or in the gate itself, it's going to be an area where energy cannot flow. So you're going to have the primal life force frequencies coming in at an accelerated rate. It's going to hit those blockages and start to fragment all over the place, creating more damage to the template, which makes it so more blockages occur. What that translates to, when that happens in the planetary shields, they're called the planetary shields, the scalar templates of the planet, when a gate can't fully hold and run the frequency it was meant to run, it will start to fragment the scalar template, and that will start to erode the stability of the matter base, which means you get tectonic cracking, you get wild weather patterns, you get volcanoes. Those kind of things can happen in areas, gate areas that are opening, that the grids are blocked or distorted. What we're doing with the roundtables is meant specifically to balance the frequencies that are coming in. When we do a roundtable, we're setting grids that have the full 12 subharmonics in them. So even if the gate is damaged and it can't fully run the subharmonics, or the area near it can't run the subharmonics, we are putting an area in that grid. It's not fixing the whole thing yet. It would take lots and lots of roundtables to do that. But we're putting an area that holds the D12 pattern where the divine blueprint's restored, so it can literally let the energy come through the gate and then bring it through the D12 pattern to harmonize it and balance it before it's released out through the grids. And as it's released out through the grids, it will carry the D12 pattern with it. So it means the areas that we set in frequency, if energy's coming down through these gates, comes down through one of these, hits a blockage, we happen to have in that area where the blockage is, we have one of our roundtable grids that are left. That will serve literally as a conduit through which, instead of these energies coming through and starting to crash stuff, it'll come through, begin to vibrate and crash stuff, but then it'll stabilize through the field that we've set. And from there, it will pick up the D12 subharmonic coding, and it'll progress out through the planetary ley lines and grid lines and axiotonals, but with the D12 subharmonics in it, which means it'll heal as it goes, and it'll spread the divine blueprint coding as it goes. So that's what we're doing when we do roundtables. If we did not do them, in fact, for a long time now, since 208,216 BC, if humans did not do roundtables, that's what we came to do, roundtables. If we didn't do them during a stellar activation cycle, when a natural Stargate cycle was coming, because of the damage in the Earth's grids, the place would go into pole shift. It was our job and our commission to simply hold down the fort, and whenever stellar activation cycle was due to come, we would run the rounds, and we would progressively, each time we did it, put a part of the divine blueprint back into the planet, to eventually there would be a day when the whole thing was restored. When the whole thing was restored, then everybody could go home. That's been incarnating in here for millions and millions of years. But the planet would reach what was called Christed status, which means it would be capable of running the full spectrum of the D12 currents, and it would be an ascension planet, which is what it was intended to be. So that was the commission, and that's what we're doing now. And so are the other selves that are in the other rounds, in the other time vectors. If any one of us doesn't do our job, we don't get the outcome that we'd like to see. And the outcomes, unfortunately, get very serious. Stargate cycles seem like fiction because we lost the memory of having that knowledge. But in truth, they're very real. I mean, I think people, especially people that have been around, like, healing or the New Age movement at all, in the last even 5 years, you have been able to feel the change in frequency on the planet. It's raising, it's moving faster. Time is moving faster. It's like, gosh, no matter how hard you jog to keep up with it, it seems to run ahead of you. There's stuff happening, you can feel it. Scientists are noticing this at this point. There's things that are not being released through the mass media, scientific establishments. Everything from picking up a second sun behind the sun to having strange things happen with crystal rock bases that are like totally changing frequency and they're starting to crack, to very just strange effects and frequency modulation effects, magnetic field fluctuation effects, all those kinds of things. are actually happening on the planet, and they're affecting us biologically. This is why they're happening. We are in an active Stargate opening cycle. And unfortunately, most of the mainstream scientists don't want to hear that because they think they know it all. And they don't want to hear about the fact that there's something out of their control. Because what if it was admitted on a mass level and we all had a big meeting at the UN and said, well, here we go. We've waited since 22,326 BC for this one. Yeah. Well, it's here, guys. Last time, pole shift happened. It wasn't the worst one. It was only partial pole shift. But it still created an ice age and that kind of thing. Yeah. What would they do? They don't know what to do. The only people that know what to do are the people that are fortunate enough to be able to connect with the Iani or any of the founders' races. This is why the New Age movement is so frustrating, because the people, the most talented people who have the ability to activate strands faster, which means they have the ability to channel, or other things that are of a higher nature, have been suckered into channeling, using their abilities that way, where they could have been bringing this knowledge in, and that's what they came to do. But instead they're getting hijacked and given false information that's dragging them off into a path that if they only knew what it was, they wouldn't want to go there. You know, so it's left to people who are still willing to learn and to listen, like us. So we will do our part. The Iani are doing their part. If it wasn't for the Iani races and the other founders races and guardian races, we wouldn't stand a chance here. We wouldn't be able to hold enough knowledge or enough frequency alone to fix this, because this is a big problem. Stargates are large frequency things. They can blow up like atom bombs, and it's very messy when they do. That's what happened a long time ago with the Gate 12. So right now, what we're doing, the simple little act, that's why I said the problems are complex, but the solutions are simple. Round tables are not hard to do. Neither are salutations. Even if we were not able to get any more sophisticated knowledge in than that, those things alone would allow each one of us, if we use just salutations, running the D12 current, and add the Vecca code technologies to that, even the little bit of them that we have, one of us would be equivalent to, I think, probably 1,000 or a couple thousand of people running reverse Merkaba. I don't know what the ratios are, but they are huge as far as one person running this kind of current has the power of huge amounts of people not able to run that current. So even though the groups may be small that are working with these frequencies on this level of technical data, about the Templar, we have the ability to make huge results. We can do our part in restoring the divine blueprint, and if we do, we'll progressively affect not only the planetary grids, the planetary shield, we will begin affecting the tribal shield as well, which means every one of us that gets our DNA template clear on a regular basis by running our D12 current progressively helps the tribal shield, that is the race morphogenetic field, to pick up more and more of its divine blueprint, to purge more and more of its distortions, which means even the people who don't want to hear about any of this will progressively get assistance from the people who are working this. We will carry them through. We will simply add so much frequency of the divine blueprint into the race template that it will eventually flip it over. There will be a critical mass of the divine blueprint in the race template, and then everybody's DNA will start to clear. And that's one of the things that could work really, really well here, where for a while it's going to be very polarized. It's polarizing worse and worse every day right now, because you're having people that are catching the higher frequencies coming in and being able to hold them because their DNA isn't distorted in those areas, and you have other people who are not being able to catch up with the acceleration rhythm, and they're starting to pull away from each other. This is what we're seeing everywhere. It's not just in the New Age movements. You know, people that got along once upon a time, all of a sudden they just don't get along anymore. They don't agree. This one has this set of ideas, this one has this set. If you look at the whole war on terrorism and what happened there, they literally, in an instant, no, within 24 hours of the instant, Mr. Bush had managed to literally polarize the entire planet. There was no option of in the middle. You were either supporting the war against terrorism or you were a terrorist-supporting country. Total polarization. There was no middle space. And like people like the Iranian government, wait a minute, we don't fit into either of those categories. You know what I mean? Hey, wait a minute. But there was no third option. There was not a third option given. So we're going to see this more and more, this polarization. We're watching polarization between the Muslim people and the Christian people right now. We're going to watch that. We're going to see it in our daily lives. This is part of what is taking place, because what's happening, part of it's natural. This happens in every stellar activation cycle, even if they work naturally, like even if it's not where there's grid damage. What happens in a stellar activation cycle is the energy and consciousness that can handle the transition up to the next level goes up in frequency, and the parts that can't hold it they start to fall in frequency. As the stellar activation cycle fulfills itself, there's a thing called a 3-day particle conversion period, where literally the higher stuff goes up to the next octave, and the lower stuff, it could be like, dirt, it could be like buildings, whatever can hold the higher frequency will make the transition, transmute to the next level, and retain its form constant, and whatever can't will go back into the time cycle it was just in. It'll still retain its form constant, but it will be stuck in the same time cycle to evolve again through that same cycle. This happens in every stellar activation cycle. The polarization is a natural part of it, and that it allows for the circulation of energy where they would be static if we were all stuck in one pool of energy, and the parts that were not able to hold the higher frequencies could not separate from the parts that were capable. The ones that were capable of holding the higher frequencies would never get the chance to go up into the next level. Now it's when they go up into the next level, they actually create a back pull that helps to pull the other ones up through their next cycle, so they get up the next time. So what we're seeing with the polarization, even though it's frustrating and it can be very sad from the outside, it's part of a natural process. It's just being amplified to an unnatural level by the twisted things that are happening here with the Illuminati races. But what we are doing when we work with roundtables, when we work even personally with salutations, we are literally putting more of the divine blueprint back. Every salutation you do personally puts more of the planetary divine blueprint back as well as your own. Every time we put more of that back, we are assisting in harmonizing those polarities. We are assisting in bringing whatever of the lower vibrating stuff back into the higher vibrating stuff, so it might be able to make the transition. If you look at it as particles, that's one thing, but you can look at it as people or countries as well. When we do the work we're doing, our private little spiritual work that, the governments aren't interested in, thank goodness. If they only knew what power this stuff had, they would not let us do it. Fortunately, they just kind of look at us as New Age fluffheads, which is a very, very safe place to be. Good place to be in relation to governments and Illuminati and that kind of stuff. We're getting to the point where we have a little bit too much of the technology to be categorized as fluffheads, so I know we're watched, because they want to know. So that's another safety, where nobody is bothering us Illuminati-wise, because they see that we have a lot of knowledge. They see what we're doing with it, which they don't particularly agree with, but they want the grid knowledge. They want to understand how the gates work, where they're located, when what's activating, whose grids are doing what, and we're the ones that are getting that information. So it creates a nice little safety buffer zone for anybody involved with this work. You become of interest. They're not going to, you might be on the other side, but boy, could I learn from you, that kind of thing. Okay, what's the next one? I guess we could do this one.
This is the sequence, all right?
What time is it getting to be?
It's dinner time.
That's dinner time, right? That's all right for dinner time, right? We were going to, yeah. At least a short one. I'll put this one. Yeah, I'll finish this section before we do that. We went to midnight last night.
On these maps, I don't see Israel or Jerusalem or anything at all on there. Does it figure in at all, or is that just part of the agenda of the Illuminati?
It figures in, especially in the Illuminati, because if you look at, on this map that's up here, nope, it's not up there anymore, the one that's on page 170, where it says Earth Stargate 2, Sarasota, Florida, right? Gruol Point. Gruol Point means main control gate of this planetary shield. That's the main control gate. Now, this connects to something called Vortex 2, which is in Jerusalem. Jerusalem has been a hotbed because they've been trying to use the Jerusalem vortex to control the Gruol Point at Sarasota, Florida, because they're directly connected. Vortex 2 connects into Stargate 2. So Jerusalem has been a hotbed, just like the Middle East areas have been a hotbed when it comes to Iraq and Iran, because you have Stargate 10 and QSite 10 in both of those, one each in those countries. So Jerusalem is important, but it wasn't the most important, but it was an area, and it still is an area, that the forces it's like a place that they want to get control of, because whoever controls that has direct access to try to get to the Gruol Point, which is also called the Holy Grail Point. All right, that's for the quest for the Holy Grail. It was the Holy Gruol. The Gruol is a Terran word, a word from Tara, that referred to the center control signet, or the center control gate, that controlled the entire shield there are three shields on, like the Earth shield, the Terran shield, and the Gaian shield, and then of course the Aramitena Christo shield. The center gate in each one would control the entire shield. So gate 2 would be the thing that they'd go after down here in dimensions 1, 2, and 3, density 1. Gate 2 would be the part that they would do everything they could to try to get control of the grids in order to get control of the Gruel. Because if they could get control of the Gruel, they could use that to run vertically and try to get control of the Templar of the planetary body above and the density above through the Gruel point. So Jerusalem has figured significantly in all of that, literally, throughout history because of Vortex 2. There are 7 primary vortices on the planet that connect in with the stargates. There are only 7 because the other ones that would go with 8 through 12 are actually up on Terra. There would be vortices that are actually up in the next density level. But the 7 primary vortices connect into, or they feed energy into and out of, like circulate energy through the, from the stargates through into the Templar, into the planetary grids, and all of those things. So Jerusalem was significant. She had asked if Jerusalem was significant in all this, or if this was just invented by the Anunnaki groups. Yes, it was significant because it is the access, a main access point to the Gruel point. Okay, here is the opening of the 7 seals was about the opening of the vortices. Now, these dates have all changed since the Crisis Intervention mission began in May of 2001, where Gate 6 was actually opened early, and it set in motion a whole bunch of other things to block what the Illuminati were doing in the grids, so they didn't create pole shift between 2003 and 2008. Because of that, all these dates are now literally much sooner. All these vortices are beginning their opening cycles. So it's not, this is still in the books to show you, at least you could see where the vortices are. Now, Vortice 1 that connects with Stargate 1. Stargate 1 is, where was Stargate? It was South Pole. All right, Vortice 1 is coming up through the Painted Desert in Arizona. And the little vortices that feed off that are like the Sedona vortices and those kind of things. They're all connected to this Vortice 1. Unfortunately, right now it's controlled by the Necromaton Andromes and the little Men in Black guys and those guys. And the South Pole base is controlled by them. So therefore they also control the vortice system that's connected over here, all those miles away. The Jerusalem vortice is connected to Stargate 2. The Himalaya, in the Himalayan mountains, there's Vortice 3. That's still compromised. In Giza, Egypt, is where Vortice 4 is. Now here, when you get up into these, the Stargate and the vortice are in the same region. All right, these are the density 1 vortices, which would be in a bit of a different location, but connected to the density 1 gates. But it changes a bit when you get up to here, where you actually have the vortices and the gates are the same place. The vortice actually leads you into the gate that's actually in the next density. All right, so in Tara, you actually have Stargate 4, 5, and 6, but you have Stargate 4, 5, and 6 here because you have these vortices connecting you directly into those gates. So that's the difference that doesn't much matter. We have 12 stargates. There are 7 primary vortices that connect to the first 7 of those. There are other vortices, there are others that connect up to the 12th. But the 7 seals, they told us about the 7 first because the seals on these vortices have been being controlled by the Jehovian races, the Jehovian Anunnaki races, for quite some time now. They got involved in the deal back in Atlantis, 25,500 BC time. There's a whole part of the work that I'm trying to integrate into that's not in this book yet, that was given since September of last year, that has to do with the Jehovian seals and the planetary grids. And they've been controlling these vortices. That's why there's 7 of them listed. And they were literally trying to reverse these vortices, because if these could all get reversed, they could literally take the planetary grids down, reverse the spin on the planetary shield, and take the whole planetary body down through the transition into the black hole matrix. And that would be major cataclysm for the planet. But anyway, this isn't too important now. Just to know there are 7 vortices. There are also the 5 more that are dormant at this point, and they haven't revealed any locations on them. Okay, time portal and dimensional lock systems. Stargates and portals are pairs of interconnected, counter-rotating electromagnetic field spirals. What page is that? 97. Page 97. So stargates and portals are pairs of interconnected, counter-rotating electromagnetic field spirals that naturally exist within suns and planetary bodies. and which also form at fixed points of space within the 5 densities of the universe, where time cycles and time continua repeatedly pass through each other at fixed intervals. That was a mouthful, but it was basically saying is stargates and portals form where time cycles and time continuous cycles continually cross through each other. If you look at them as flashline sequences, where these flashline sequences run into the next flashline sequence, there is an area where a gate would form. They form in the planetary bodies and the locations in the planetary shields where those crossovers take place. Now, stargates run, the difference between stargates and portals is this. Stargates run on a vertical axis. They're the larger ones, so they're larger energy feed systems. And if you look at these, what happens if you pull this one down and the other one up? What does it form? Right, a Merkaba. All right, so when they fully activate, they form a Merkaba. That's how you can go through the form constant at the center and pop up someplace else. All right, when they're dormant or not, even they can be activated but not in use. They hang out in this position where where they have the 2 spirals of energy. They're on a vertical axis, and these would be the ones that would run up through the density. So if you wanted to get out of density 1, and up to here, you'd take a vertical. Okay, you take one of the vertical star gates as opposed to one of the other ones I'll talk about in a minute. So they're basically just like Merkaba fields. They're sets of counter-rotating electromagnetic spirals that form a black and white hole set. There's the seal at the center. Okay, the seal is what opens, or when the frequencies come in, triggers the release of the crystal seal at the center, and they open, they become a Merkaba, and that becomes the form constant space, and that's where people can pass through them. Now down here, you have time portals. They're on a horizontal and diagonal axis. So these would take you, if you wanted to go to another time band, but in this density, you would take these, the horizontals. Okay, if you want to go up to other densities, or up into the other star systems, you take the verticals. If you wanted to go simply to other times, back and forth through the timelines here, you would take the horizontals. The diagonals are taken a long way home. They basically would take you could take a zigzag path with them, where you could go through, let's say main gates were blocked, but these guys were open. You could take the diagonals up through to get around blockages, or to get around somebody you didn't want to deal with on the other side of a gate, that kind of thing. So these are the primary structures. They're all in form like this. At the center of planets and stars, you have the set of them. They're on, we call it a 6-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, it's actually 3 lines that form 6 directional points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have a vertical, you'll have a horizontal, and you'll have a diagonal. All right, this should be tilted a little bit more that way and more the right size, but it gives you the idea of the 3 sets of them there. This is how they're structured. They are, again, they open up to be Merkaba fields where you can pass through the centers of them if you can activate your Merkaba field with the same coding, with the same frequencies. Okay, I think we're on to the next one. I'd like to get to inner Earth before we go for dinner. We're almost to inner Earth. Don't need that one. That's for later. Thank you. I think this is the inner Earth one, isn't it? Inner Earth Halls of Mente? Yeah. All right. This will be a good place to break for dinner once we get done with this. This is on page, what page? 99. Okay. Now, there's a cleaned up version of this in the Voyager's book. Some of these diagrams are reproduced in the Voyager's reprinting. Not all of this stuff is in there. Not all of that stuff is going to be in this program, but this is the original, the older version of this. Now, this is a Halls of Mente Stargate system, showing you basically they're structured just like the natural Stargate system on the Cathara grid. The angle is a little tilted here, but you can see the Cathara grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So you have each of the gates. This is in the Particum universe, our universe. Here you have Earth and the Earth gates, 1, 2, and 3. Center gate, control gate, right? That's called the Gruol point. You get up to density 2, dimensions 4, 5, 6, that's where you have Tara, which here we call the star Alcyon. That has gates 4, 5, and 6. Gate 5 is its Gruol point, its Holy Grail point. And then you have, in density 3, you have gates 7, 8, and 9, and they're in the Gaian body. So Earth has these 3, but these all connect and open into Earth. So technically Earth has all of these stargates. Now there wasn't room to move it on the diagram, but this is where the Aramitena gates are. So, you know, gate 10, 11, and 12, these would be the Aramitena gates at Earth's density 4 level. These gates all connect here, and Earth, each one of these bodies technically has 12 primary gates because they're all connected to this structure. From any of these, you can get to the ones above and below. They're really the 12 gates of the entire body of Earth, from its divine blueprint all the way through to its densest level. Over here, this is the system that represents inner Earth. Here we have Particum universe, right? Particum would go with Mayan units, which that's just new stuff they're introducing, but I'll use that with that Mayan units. Here we have inner Earth. This is Particae, not Particae. Particae are the antimatter units. So it's literally an antimatter particle universe, which means it's made of trions, first of all, as opposed to myons and what will be dions over here. It is not polarized in the same way as these particular systems are polarized. It still has some primal levels of polarity, so it can stay within manifestation. But it has this system has literally 2. It has all the stargates that are on parallel and all the stargates that are here come in through inner Earth. Inner Earth is a reality field that's at a different angular rotation of particle spin than the particle field here. The angular rotation of particle spin of inner Earth is 45 degree shift. If you have Earth here, you'd have inner Earth at this angular rotation. So its particles are rotating at that angle, ours are rotating at this angle. They're all taking place in the same space. They're like different virtual reality screens or electromagnetic domains that all exist within the same computer. Okay? This is the structure of reality, and it's mind-blowing when you realize that this, my God, this is a hologram. It really is like virtual reality taken to its highest level, or its original level, actually. Over here, and notice here, in inner Earth, there are 2 suns. Okay? They have 2 sets of gates, and they have 2 suns. And here's parallel over here. Parallel is in the Particae universe. That's the base electrical universe. That's the universe that's composed primarily of dion units. And this would be the electrical polarity. This would be the magnetic polarity. Or this would be the positive charge. This would be the negative charge in terms of electrical current running through it. They're all connected through the horizontal gates. And the halls of Amente that are anchored in here, those crystal pylon temples that are literally put in the gates here, they're put in the gates here to keep them all open. They keep them all open all of the time. If these gates weren't open all of the time, there's so little energy coming through these grids here because of the blockages in these grids that these planets would have imploded a long time ago, just because there was not enough primal frequency to keep their particle rotation speed where it needed to be so it didn't begin imploding on itself. Because of the halls of Amente stargates and the crystal pylon temples that are placed in each one of the halls of Amente stargates, the primal life force currents come through here, and they circulate from here and are amplified and modulated from here into Earth and into parallel Earth to keep at least some of the primal life force frequencies functioning here. These are going to be used to clear the distortions, finally, once and for all out of here. The divine blueprint is anchoring through the inner Earth systems first, and we are bringing it, drawing it through with the round tables. So they are anchoring the primal light field currents, primal sound field currents, and the D12 divine blueprint. They are bringing those frequencies in, and they are transmitting them to us, where we pick them up and put them back into the planetary grids, restoring the distortions that are here. So as these gates open, they don't implode, and they don't send in place in a pole shift. So the halls of Amente are here, but they come out here. They connect to the stargates in our systems here. And the Eoni live here. The Eoni races, the Eoni Indigo Grail Line races. When we get into the history, either tonight or tomorrow, we'll talk about this long history in several seedings where did things go when Cataclysm hit here. Were they all destroyed? No, they weren't. There have been numerous different groups of human races have evolved in inner Earth ever since seeding 1 down here. There's bunches of them in inner Tara and in inner Gaia as well, but the ones that are in dense bodies, like we have, density 1 bodies, have literally moved. They were taken through the gates, in usually evacs. If the planet was going to roll, they would take them through, as many could get through with their DNA. They would help them through, and they would help them acclimate there. Some of them decided to come back and and be part of the resettlement teams after the dust settled on the planet. The humans would come back and reset up the Templar again. But bunches of them stayed. They stayed in inner Earth and evolved there. And it's a more peaceful space in a lot of ways because the polarities are not the same. Polarity doesn't work the same way as it does here with the extremes that it can go into here. So these races, there are also, now inner Earth isn't heaven. It isn't perfect, just like higher isn't always better. In inner Earth, you have Anu Melchizedek races. You have whole bunches of different races that used to live on the planets at different times that were taken through in evacs. And some of them are Anunnaki, and some of them are Draconian. You have some very strange creatures in inner Earth. Our vampire legends came from some of the creatures of inner Earth. There are strange reptilian-type creatures of inner Earth that can't stand sunlight at all, and they're not even the vampires, they're just the reptoids. There are huge amounts of Anunnaki races, the Anu Melchizedek races, who were the foundation race for the Illuminati races here. They live there too. So there is conflict in inner Earth as well. Right now, what is going on is in inner Earth, there's wars happening right now because the guardian races and founders and the protectors of the crystal pylon temples are being attacked, or they're trying to get to them to attack them, because right now is the big hurrah. This has been, if you wait since 22,326 BC to try to do something, you're not going to pass up the opportunity when it comes, This battle is not just a battle. This battle that's being waged by the fallen angelic races is not just happening here on Earth. It's happening in the inner Earth systems as well, and it's happening in the parallel systems. Unfortunately, the parallel systems, it went very badly, and they are, at this point, under full martial law control. They are going into, worse than martial law. They are under full ET martial law control. There was landings and Zetas, and the Draconians got a hold of parallel Earth. And there was a period of time when there was the underground freedom fighters movement trying to stand up against them, and it got really nasty over there. And at this point, they are going into pole shift, and it can't be stopped. So over here could translate through into here, and if this one rolls too, that one's going to go. Okay?
How much of the Earth's consciousness has been hijacked now?
I haven't asked for a percentage, but I'm afraid to ask. I don't think I want to know. I will ask for an answer to that question, later, and see what I come up with, if it's anything that they really want me to address. But I don't think it's a good question. It's almost setting yourself up to get depressed. It's not looking good, but it doesn't matter how many, it matters what kind, okay? It doesn't matter if 90% of the population was under frequency fence mind control. If there's enough that know the high mechanics, that know how to run divine blueprint, they will change it. They will make a difference. Because the people under frequency fence, or the people who are hijacked, would, if we reset more and more the D12 frequency, more and more the divine blueprint, that will begin to undermine the technologies that are being used to keep them hijacked. So eventually their own soul connections, their own avatar connections will be able to reach them. So it doesn't matter if 90% of them were under a frequency fence and, almost brain dead. It doesn't matter. As long as there's 10% or even less, 2%, that know enough of the mechanics that they can run the powerful frequencies through the round tables to begin to clear the whole thing. So that's why I've never asked about percentages on that.
How about the Earth itself?
The Earth itself.
Yeah, it's not taking the people, the Earth consciousness.
Okay, the Earth consciousness, the people are part of the Earth consciousness.
Yeah, but, if you take
what percentage has been hijacked into Phantom? Is that what you're saying? That's a good question. It's getting to be, it started out as a much smaller percentage, and that started like 5.5 million years ago. We get into something we'll talk about in the history that has to do with a wall in time that was set up, where the Phantom Matrix had pulled, there was a big battle again between the fallen angelics, and portions of the Earth's grids got dragged into Phantom, and they've progressively accreted which means pulled in to themselves energy from these grids. So at this point, it was known in 22,326 BC that the Earth body that was assembling itself in phantom matrix by pulling energy from here had grown to a critical mass to where if it was allowed to go much longer, it was going to become bigger than this Earth body, and it would pull this whole Earth body in with it. That's why it was decided that the Christos realignment mission had to be finalized, where that connection would be broken so it didn't pull the whole system in. So I would say it was a percentage that started off small, but over the millennia it has grown to a point where now we're about even. And, well, actually in 22,326 BC, we were about even. I don't know how fast the accretion process is as far as percentages, but if it wasn't a crisis situation at this point, these mechanics and things would not be being brought here right now. It's at the point where, yes, Earth could actually get drawn in, and part of it probably will, which means there will probably be some degree of Earth changes in the areas of the grids that are not cleared. Those are the areas of the planetary grids that will undergo some type of natural appearing Earth changes, while part of the grids are literally getting reversed and taken into phantom, where the matter body, part of the matter body is actually being siphoned and spit back out into the phantom matrix. If we get enough of what's called the trion meage field set, which is the planetary trion meage field light sound field, all right, this will create a situation where most of the planetary grids will be protected from that. It'll create a buffer blanket, and that's what we're aiming to do. Okay, I think people look weary. I just noticed a few people just look like I feel like I'm asleep on my feet. Okay, well, we got through the basic, mechanics of stargates, what things are, where inner Earth is in relation to us. And notice here, 45-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin between our Earth and inner Earth. 45-degree shift angular rotation of particle spin between inner Earth and parallel Earth implies 90-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin between our Earth and parallel Earth. There's also a 90-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin between each of these dimensional levels in each harmonic, and there's another 45-degree shift in between each density level. So it's just giving you an idea of the angle that particles are spinning at. These angles become important when you start working with advanced Merkaba, because eventually you'll learn to point your Merkaba to control its vertical angle. If you want to go over there, there's 45, And literally, when we begin to plug the Merkabas in and heal the chemical DNA where we can take our bodies with us, that will become important. We'll probably learn how to do that through projection first, where we'll learn how to put our mental body into the Merkaba and take it through things and learn how to direct it. We have to do it with our mind before we try to take our body, because if we don't get used to it with our mind, we might really mess things up when we try to take our body somewhere. Okay.
So, on that parallel third, if it bleeds both ways, and we can create the buffer on Earth, it should be able to go back both ways and pull them back from the direction they're going parallel.
At this, there's a critical mass factor that happens, okay? At a certain point, if a critical mass is reached in any one pattern in the grids, there's nothing you can do to prevent its cycling until its natural conclusion, whatever that is. Right now, they have hit critical mass, and yeah, they're heading for. In fact, they're going into it. They're a little bit ahead of us in time, and they're going into it now. When did they start? I forget. Do you remember the dates on that? Because they gave us the dates. What would be their 2008 is beginning to happen now. I think it's their 2008, our 2003. It turned out to be something like that. Yeah, there's about 6 years difference. So in their 2008, they're going into pole shift, where their 2008 equals like our 2003-ish. And because of that, if something wasn't being done right here, we would have been dragged along. In our 2008, we would have followed that same pattern. But we're bringing in the primal light and sound fields, not just the divine blueprint, but literally the anchoring rods of the Kirashe and the Kundalini to serve as like a splint to hold these grids stable while these go. They can't stop this at this point. They're doing evacs and that kind of thing to help people, but they can't prevent the cleansing that's taking place. It's going to be a cleansing because it's going to throw Zetas around as well as humans. It's not just something that's going to harm humans. So in a way, it's almost being allowed because it got that bad there. There's nothing they can do to stop it, or they would. But it's actually better than what would happen if the Illuminati presence and the fallen angelic presence were allowed to continue with that planet. It would end up in not only destruction of that planet, but all of these too. And if these go, it starts going vertical. Particularly if they get control of the Mente gates. They can take it all the way up the spectrum. So the tragedy sometimes has a silver lining, to it. And there's a lot of help being given to the people and the beings over there. Many of them are crossing over, literally leaving their bodies because they can't do the DNA activation because of the frequency fences that are running there at this point, and the grids are too messed up to go through the gates, directly with your body. So they are coming through as consciousness. There's already been like a lot of tidal waves and earthquakes and those kind of things that large amounts of people have left their bodies. It helps to know when you see those things that, oh, there's a group that decided to go. They decided to leave. All right? These are not accidents. When you see bunches of people getting killed in natural disasters and things, they're not being taken before their time. That's the way they chose to go out. And usually people that go out like that like company. So they decided they didn't want to make the transition alone. They'd rather, go through with a troop of them. But the consciousness is moving on.
Galactic contract agreements, and they don't show up in the mail tomorrow, unfortunately. But you will find that there will be all kinds of life supportive, since this is Christos. I mean, it will always be, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it. You may have physical reactions, you may not. You may feel that you're clearing flu, you may feel achy, all various things in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Just recognize that what you're doing is a high activation, and that there will be some kind of reaction to that. But the galactic issue is perhaps the most significant, and the fact that the Rishi actually trade a couple of years of your karma for you now as a result. Now, to save time, I will repeat, as I've done before, the vow to the Christos self. This is entitled for the level 3 regents. And if there are any words that you find difficulty with, you don't have to repeat them. But I won't read it through, just to save a little time. So, if you repeat after me in bite-sized chunks, please. I have come to recognize in my growth and search for spiritual enlightenment that the light I seek lives always within me. The spark of eternal life that is God. In my maturity of knowing that I am this spark made flesh. I call now to this spark within. Rise, rise, and let your eternal fires burn. Rise, rise, and let your eternal fires burn. In this step across the threshold of creation. The spark within ignites. Becoming now the eternal flame of liquid light. Soothing, constant. And forever now embodied. I release to the Christ fire within me. All lesser fires of ancient passions spent. I release to the Christ fire within. All entanglements of duality. As they may exist within my humble vessel. I embrace now the eternal love. Wisdom and oneness. That my inner Christ provides. I return now to unity. To express as the Christed one that I am. I shall carry this flame. From this moment forth. Transforming with love.
Transform me with love.
And the power of eternal fire.
And the power of eternal fire.
All things to which I am assigned.
All things to which I am assigned.
I carry forth this flame of liquid light.
I carry forth this flame of liquid light.
Bringing forth the truth, joy, love, and compassion.
Bringing forth the truth of love, and compassion.
Of the Maharata Ray.
Of the Maharata Ray.
For the healing of the worlds.
For the healing of the world.
In the house of many mansions.
In the house of many mansions.
I carry forth this freedom.
I carry forth this freedom.
In eternal victory.
In eternal victory.
In reverence and respect.
In reverence and respect.
For the common source that feeds us all.
For the common source that feeds us all.
I accept now.
I accept now.
The commission of Regent.
The commission of Regent.
To serve as the embodiment.
To serve as the embodiment.
Of the Christos light and sound.
Of the Christos light and sound.
Wherever I may go.
Wherever I may go.
And so it is.
And so it is.
In the name of the Melchizedek Cloister.
In the name of the Melchizedek Cloister.
Sacred House of One.
Sacred House of One.
Holy Order of the Unistai.
Holy Order of the Unistai.
Azurite Council of the Ra Confederacy presiding.
Azurite Council of the Ra Confederacy presiding.
Excellent. And as it is decreed.
And as it is decreed.
So as it is done.
So as it is done.
You. Now, wait. Sit still and be calm. Kuntan Om Shaddai Urea Kuntan Om Shaddai Urea Kuntan. Welcome one and all, beloved regents of the Azurite Temple, Melchizedek Cloister. Signets of the Rainbow Round Table.
Welcome home.
It is, by the way, a cranial sacral seal transmission. which means, I should probably use this for 2 seconds, it is a craniosacral field transmission. It'll be more mild since it was indirect induction. But what you may find in the next week or so, many people don't feel anything at first. It's just a progressive thing that they notice I'm awakening. Like 6 months later, I awakened pretty good. But sometimes you may get a bit of pressure in your tailbone, or you may get a little bit of headaches in the next 3 to 5 days. And it depends on what's in your field. If you've had implants and you don't know about them, begin to purge, but your avatar level and Rishi are regulating it, so it's not going to devastate you if you do have any effects like that. So I just wanted you to know it was a craniosacral seal activation. They are the seals that hold the Kundalini spirals. So when they release, they begin to allow the main vertical current to bring in more the frequencies of the crystals and eventually the primal light and sound fields. So welcome, Cygnets, to the Rainbow Round Table.
Did you all remember to bring this with you? Excellent. Now, because of the... I want to do the Becca song.
Well, they want us just to do the Akasha right now.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
easier. So they want us to run the Akasha
Right.
and to do
The normal routine.
the normal
Okay.
routine and the
Okay.
Akasha.
All right,
Okay?
please, just a second, bear with me. What?
The Akasha. They should all have an Akasha to look at.
Right.
Just do it.
It's on the floor left down there. No, the buyback is not in there. The new manual is laying in my bag. Right.
That's awesome. I grab it.
Okay. This is a way of familiarizing you with the full round table routine. There isn't anything for you to do looked at or considered from a crude point of view. It could be as simple as listening to the instructions that I provide you with from the center of the stand. The captains and you as tribes, I know, have worked together very well. It's very obvious that you spend a lot of time rehearsing and you're really ready to go. And that's beautiful as well as important tonight. There are things, though, in terms of the sequence that we haven't had time to take you through. Nothing to worry about, really. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes just talking you through what's going to happen once we've got the hoops laid up on the snow right across the car park from here. All right, when we're all ready and settled down and the captains are satisfied that their tribes, teams, groups, whatever, are actually ready and paying attention, this is not a chore and it's not boring. Without sounding like a headmaster, I prefer people to be aware of the significance of what they're doing. I want you to be happy, but I don't want people to mess about. This is serious, without being boring, okay? But it is serious.
Have a good time,
Yes.
too.
Now, I just come to that point. The whole issue, really, in terms of how you comport yourself, is to be, in as much a concentrated way as you can, aware of yourself as a bundle of fun called energy. And you're going to take it out there, and you're going to shake your doodah, right? You know, because that's how I want you to feel. Okay, but you see, there isn't this churchy kind of you got to suffer for it all. But at the same time, it is a thing that's of such sacred significance, it's quite extraordinary. So it's an altogether different, I was going to say alien, different emotion for us to bring together in one place. Because we haven't been encouraged to or taught to. But just do your best to have a good time out there, right? But at the same time, stay focused. We begin with something I read and you repeat after me, which is called the Declaration of the Christic Intention. It's quite a long prayer.
And it's done before every round table. Like,
Always.
we're going to run them. This is like the opening. And,
Yep.
you know, really kind of like my will be thy will kind of thing. So you don't, you know, you're not trying to command stuff all by yourself, you know.
We immediately follow that by singing the song of Lyra Aramatena together. And all of this will be happening standing in our stand positions. Everyone will be positioned before we begin. The round table itself hasn't been opened. We're just doing our preparatory work for the round as we do this. So we'll sing the song of Lyra Aramatena together. Pardon me? Yeah, we'll do it outside. Then we'll move into the Q zone, which we did inside here last night, which you perform standing in our positions. We don't move from them until we're finished. We'll go immediately into the salutations, which you did here last night, but we'll finish the salutation with the element I pointed out. We will do the little spin, just briefly at the end of that. Okay, and then we call the round table open. Okay? Now, at that point, there are a series of about 4 instructions that are given. The tribes, when the table is open, the tribes will be told to begin to spin clockwise and to begin to build up the tone of their tribe name, the one you've been rehearsing. Okay? The people that are not in the center part of the stand, that's to say the 2 outer circles, will perform tribe 1 and 12 tribe names. And they will do whatever, everyone does the same thing, except the guys that are forming the sentinel circles, the Merkaba circles, will tone tribe 1 and tribe 12, while the other tribes will just concentrate on their 1 tribe name. We'll build it up like we have done with the practice work, and then is where I told you about you keep the toning up when I tell you to slow down your spin. Right? It's really important that you hold that level of toning while you get your physical body to slow down, come to a gentle stop, and then you'll be told to reverse the direction of spin whilst holding the tone up. You know, you might hear me yelling, you know, just keep it there. Don't worry, just keep working it. That's fine. Now, when we're satisfied we've built enough frequency and we've built the pillars in the stand, you'll be asked to slow down and bring your tone down very gently. Then you're asked to face the consummate pair in the center, which is the Shanna and myself. And at that point, the master of the round just simply calls breathe. And what you do then is you pull the frequency up from under your feet, all the way up into your heart center, build the sphere strongly like you've been doing in some of the other techniques, and when you feel ready, release that frequency into the ground immediately around our feet. We take that, we harvest that energy that you've created in the pillars and in the whole stand. We take that into our own heart center and direct it down to the earth core, okay? And through the witness that we're going to use to connect with the receiver at Lake Louise, okay? There'll be a point at which we will call council close. We do the Shaddai Ure Yakom Tan together several times until we feel done. I believe we're going to do the Song of Lyra. Oh, excuse me, I missed one step out. After close and before the Shaddai Ure, the people in the stand will sing the Song of Lyra over and over, while the 2 outer rings will do their rotation to pull in, maximize and magnify the energy, okay, and really build it. So the people who do the rotations begin, as we were saying, move quite slowly. They'll be singing the Omedah, regardless of the direction they're moving in. Okay, and they will build up their frequency. The people in the center of the stand will stand still and will sing the Song of Lyra. Okay?
And transmit it right into the witness.
And transfer it into the witness in the middle, yes.
From the heart chakra, project right to the...
Because we've now been instructed, because of our awareness through late last night and overnight, of what the significance is, we're actually being told to do this VECA, this Akasha code.
Page 37 in your new pages.
Which is something that we're doing. We're taking an identical pyramid of the kind that we secreted at Lake Louise. That's already there. That's the receiver. And we're going to plant the opposite side, a pyramid to make the opposite side of a Merkaba in the center of the round table as the witness here. And it's through those that we're going to achieve the energy transfers. Okay, through ourselves and through that in the center. And that will lock on to the receiver at the other end in Lake Louise. Okay? Now, I really don't have anything else to say, but have a thoroughly, as they say in England, damn good time.
We can run this before.
What?
They say we can run this before we go out, so we don't have to worry about taking these outside.
All right.
Okay. On page 36 and 37 in the new handouts that you got, there's the Akasha activation exercise.
We don't need the quicksilver, do we?
No, we already got the frequencies running. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to start with step 2 because we already have the Maharic seals up with the transmissions that have been running through the room with the Regent ordination.
Right.
So that, right now, you've got the field.
Come on.
Yeah.
Time's going on.
We're going to really quick run through this. And basically, this is the Akasha code, the one that links the Akkadic level of the primal sound matrix that our time matrix is a part of directly into source. It's the most powerful mathematical program that can be run in this time matrix. So we're going to be using that in the way as follows. So just get this out So you have an idea of what it looks like? 'Cause I don't even know if we have. Do we have it on Mylar?
No, not yet. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we do actually.
Did you put it in the part?
Yeah. You can start reading if you want, and I will see if I can find it. It should be in here. It should be in the pack. So if you want to stare up at it from up here when you look at it, you can do that too. If I can find it. Page 37.
Okay, we'll get right into the technique then.
There we go.
Good girl, well done. Yeah. Okay, stare at the Akasha code for a few seconds.
Optical pineal induction.
Just straight on. Yes, optical pineal induction. You push it further up, people. All right. And when you're ready, cross your eyes and move the Akasha code backwards and forwards just a little bit until you bring the distance from your face and the focus of your crossed eyes into a relationship where you see a double image. That's of the Akasha, okay? Hold the eyes crossed while taking 3 rapid breaths. On each exhale, project a stream of D6 indigo current from your third eye chakra at the forehead.
Where do you project it to? Where do you project it to?
Into the Akasha symbol.
Yes. Say that.
Into the Akasha symbol.
Into the Akasha.
Okay, now inhale several breaths of the pale silver, the mercury-looking D12 Maharata current up from the earth core, up through your Maharic cord, and on each exhale, deposit the Maharata current in the pineal gland at the center of the brain to develop a ball of pale silver energy right there in the center of your head. Now return your focus gently to the image of the Akasha and focus on the centermost pair of rings. That's the little group of tiny circles in the cross form with the 2 rings around them on the outside. That's right in the middle of the Akasha. That's called the Ruche.
This area.
Now draw a breath up from the earth core, and on the exhale, project a stream of indigo current from your 6th chakra into the Ruche symbol. And then inhale while drawing the indigo current stream with the Ruche image at its end back through the 6th chakra and into the ball at the pineal. So breathe the Ruche in on indigo color frequency, in through the third eye and into the pineal gland. Inhale one more breath of Maharata current up from the earth core to the Maharata ball at the pineal. And then use a forceful exhale to push the Akasha Ruche encoded Maharata ball out to the right, to the metta position over your right shoulder. Visualize the Maharata ball growing to the size of a basketball over the right shoulder, and visualize the image of the Ruche as expanding to fill the inside of the ball. Now inhale forcefully while drawing the Maharata ball back to a position in the center of your skull, in the center of your head. Then use 3 breaths to inhale Maharata current up from the earth core to the pineal, and exhale the Maharata current outward to fill and expand the Maharata ball in your head. Visualize the Maharata ball expanding outward from around your head until the Maharata ball fully encompasses your body and entire chakra system, from the 14th chakra 36 inches above your head to chakra 13 in the earth core. Now draw some extra breaths just to do the expansion. Now imagine that your body is surrounded entirely by a 3-dimensional Akasha teardrop-shaped clear crystal capsule. So the shape you're looking at in front of you is now surrounding you from above your 14th chakra, 3 feet above your head, and extends all the way down to the earth's core. The Akasha Code photosonic capsule is now temporarily activated in your inner Templar system, and you're ready to go out to play.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing about the shape of this symbol. if you think of the cosmic egg shape, our Hoover bodies and all of that, this is taking one of those and pinching the top and taking it right back into a direct line into source, where it literally, you have an open tap line of frequency directly from your hepatic level into source. So that's what that shape is about. It's like a three-dimensional teardrop. Your Hoover body actually expands to connect directly through, and that's why that shape emerges into the three-dimensional. Those books aren't back down yet, and they were taken out of Revelation. They were originally in Revelation, and a lot of the Anunnaki interpretation were put in to the book instead. The Anunnaki interpretation of Revelations has to do with technologies, the APIN technologies, and something called the Jehovian seals. They're created by the Jehovian Anunnaki matrix, and they are very nasty implants in the planetary grids that were structured in a way that they would activate with the natural activation of Earth's natural planetary seals that release as stargates open. And they were intended to literally rip Earth's grids apart, the shields apart, and pull what they could into phantom. The Jehovian seals also manifest in the DNA template of everything on the planet, and particularly within the human form. They were designed to, as the DNA fires, to begin, just like in the planetary grids, as your own seals begin to release, the Jehovian unnatural seals would begin to release. And that would create, within the body, a progressive reversal of the axiotonal line systems, where it would literally, eventually, through the period of a stellar activation cycle, kill the body. It would kill the body, and it would literally transfer the consciousness into the astral body on a reverse current. So the astral body would be sucked into the phantom grids, and the physical body would literally end up, being dead on Earth. And usually, because this was planned, this was all planned since the Atlantean conspiracy period began. It was planned that everything left on planet would end up just vaporized, because part of a stellar activation cycle is called a 3-day particle conversion period. 3-day particle conversion period is the period when certain electromagnetic changes take place on the planet as all of the stargates hit their opening cycles. And the particles on the planet that have the ability to pull in all the frequency subharmonics of the dimensional scale have the ability to then shift their angular rotation of particle spin, enter Merkaba, and keep a form constant on the planet. And these particles would go up to the next level, or the next time cycle that the planet's moving into. Other particles of the planetary body and the people's bodies on them that couldn't make it into the transition would shift and go lower in frequency, and they would go back down to repeat the same cycle again. 3-day particle conversion period is very complicated to try to explain in a short period. The best explanation of it is found in the Voyager's books that was originally given before the crisis intervention issues even came up. It was a natural part of a stellar activation cycle that they were trying to prepare us for. With the Jehovian seals that were planted in the grids, along with, I believe, they were plugged into what's called the Dove APIN system, which is really interesting because certain books out there that I won't mention by name talk about the landing of the Dove and all of this. And if you read Voyagers, you'll get an idea of what that is. I'm very careful in this because I'm in a very strange position. Az and I are in a very it's a very uncomfortable position, knowing that you have knowledge that you wouldn't think of not sharing with people. I wouldn't want the responsibility of not sharing this with others. Yet at the same time, it pits a whole bunch of other people in the New Age movement very, very much against what I stand for and represent, because we're simply exposing agendas. What I don't like is name calling and finger pointing. That's why I will try to, I will try to identify what needs to be identified, but not, blame it on any particular group or person or channel or any of that. Most of the people bringing through distorted ascension mechanics don't know that they are. They're being manipulated too. So I don't have any hostility toward them. Unfortunately, it's not usually mutual, but there's enough information contained in the Voyager's book that you can get an idea of the bigger picture, and the level of detail that was given on what's taking place is quite amazing. The Jehovian seals have to do with planetary seals. Planetary seals are natural. The natural planetary seals progressively open as the frequencies build in the planetary grids and the stargates progressively open. the Jehovian seals and the planetary seals have begun an accelerated activation and opening cycle because of the need for the crisis intervention, where the halls of Amaria were opened and Stargate 6 was activated more rapidly than it should have, quite a few years ahead of when it should have naturally opened, in order to get enough frequency in here to prevent pole shift before that time came. So at this point, the Jehovian seals are beginning to activate in the planetary grids, which means they're going to start activating in our bodies as well. This is another reason why working with Kathara healing, working with running your Maharata current, your D12 current, is very important. That has the ability to clear those seals and to restore the body, your body pattern progressively. The seals aren't something you can just pull like an implant. They progressively come up layer by layer, subharmonic by subharmonic. You get rid of one layer, another level of DNA activates, another layer of it comes up. In the biblical Revelation story, we have the story of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The 4 horses were the first 4 seal frequencies that would release in the planetary grids. And the horsemen, the ones that brought death and destruction, they were the first 4 Jehovian seals. There are 7 Jehovian seals that go with 7 seals on the planet. So it's there's not time to tell the whole story. And in fact, I would rather the people who really want to know about it read it instead, because the detail that's given from the written transmissions from the plates is much better than I can do verbally. So I wouldn't do it justice. There is some information in your packets about the seals release, such as on, we don't have to put this up yet, but I want to see what page it's on so I can just let you know. Somewhere in here. I might have taken it out of mine. No, I didn't. It's here somewhere. There it is. It's on page 12 in the supplement that you got. It says Planetary Seals Release Schedules, 2001 to 2003. All right. I don't need, because it's right there in front of you on one page, I don't need to go through this. If you have eyes and you can read it and, get all the detail. I put it on a chart like this, so it's a single page, so it's easier to keep track of what's going off when. And on the bottom it says, organic planetary star crystal seals control angular rotation of particle spin, the particle spin axis, and planetary Merkaba field axis. When organic star crystal seals release, the dimensional levels of the planetary matter base to which the seal corresponds become released from usual particle spin phase lock. Now, phase lock is when they're locked in to their particular flash line sequence or the particular vibrational sequence where they can't get out of that time cycle. All right, so these release the phase lock on the particles, the particle spin phase lock. Just allows the corresponding matter to shift time vectors, which allows it to climb the dimensional scale. In the process of the stellar activation cycle, the planet literally starts to jump octaves and expands frequency-wise to merge with its double, Tara. The grids merge. You won't see like 2 planets colliding with each other. But if there's blockages in the grids, this whole process is interrupted. So the seals control when that begins, and the seals have begun to release. Now, when seals release, corresponding DNA strand templates and DNA fire codes activate. Planetary grids and personal DNA strands and chakras begin to progressively purge electromagnetic distortions, miasms. This can cause temporary planetary climatic changes and seismic activity in regions within a maximum 1,000-mile radius, strongest within 100-mile radius of the seal location. So on this chart, you actually have the coordinates, not just dots on a map, but you have the coordinates. So you could like plug it into a regular map that has the coordinate lines on it. It's just so you have an idea. So if you start watching the Weather Channel, and as we progress to the next few years, just pay attention to see, because the Earth will start speaking to us by what's happening. If we see more activity, kicking up around seal locations, that's verifying for us that there's some distortions there that need healing. If you're going to do roundtables, you can direct frequencies there. Even if you're doing salutations just for yourself, you can help in planetary healing by sending D12 frequencies there and using the Vecca code exercise that we used this evening, because that will code everything much higher directly into the Akkadic matrix to whatever amount of frequency from that matrix you might be able to pull in, depending on your DNA templates. So this can be very useful, this chart can be very useful, just so you can keep an eye on things and have an idea, too, where might not be the greatest areas to live right now on the planet. Like, we're sitting right in the middle of a mess. We're down in Sarasota, Florida. It could be worse. It could be in Miami, because that's the wormholes are there, and they're trying to merge them. And if that happens, there's going to be a mess on the eastern seaboard of the United States. That's why we're trying to assist now with the round tables to stabilize the grids. Yes?
If you hold it up, can we just get a shot of the baby talking about?
Okay, I'm going to put that up, okay, in a little bit. I'll come back to it. I just wanted to let you know that it was there. I'll finish reading that when I come back to it, because I wasn't really planning to start with seals. But I just want you to know that the seals are there, and that there's a lot more to the grid mechanics than we've been able to cover. That's going to be kind of like the theme of the next 10 years, I have a feeling, because the information, we're progressively given more levels of sophisticated information pertaining to particular grids, you know, what's happening in certain areas, what we can do to balance it. The round tables are very important because they will not only help to clear out the miasmic distortions in the planetary grids that are caused by the anti-Christos agenda races doing stuff to the grids, but they will also help in balancing the natural seals release, because the grids are not in good shape right now. When those seals release and start transmitting the frequencies through the grids, it can, even if there weren't Jehovian seals, even if there weren't all these other APIN systems messing with the grids, it would still be a not quite precarious, but a fragile situation where the guardian races would still be very carefully trying to get the planet through without any major issues happening. You combine that with the rest of the mess that's taking place, and you know, without the round tables, we wouldn't have to worry about it after 2012. We'd all be space dust by then. Some of us would be floating around in phantom in our astral bodies trying to figure out if that was really ascension or not. And when you get there, it'll probably be like, oh, gee, that's a letdown. You know? It's like being trapped in a dream where you can't get out, and you're in your dream body. And you get sick of being in your dream body after a while, but you can't get back to your real body because it's not there anymore. It's literally like being in a virtual reality distortion cycle, as if somebody took your consciousness and put it in a computer game. And you have your computer persona, you know, the image that you have there, but you're in the game and you can't get out, and some part of you has a vague memory that you used to have a self that wasn't a hologram quite that way. And unfortunately there, in the Phantom Matrix, there are whole bunches of control hierarchies and all those kind of things where people who really want to have an objectified, wrathful God will have their wish fulfilled. It will, you know, it may be a draconian one, it may be an Anunnaki one, but people that really need to have that, and they get angry because they hear us teach that you don't need to do that to be spiritual and to know God. We will all, in our way, get the fulfillment of our ideas. The people that choose ideas in this world that lead to experiences of being persecuted, of being treated like sheep, which is an insult to the God within you. As far as, you know, you're a sheep, I'm your shepherd. Don't think, just follow me, which is what most of the teachings, the distorted teachings here have taught us. Those people that are going to end up in Phantom, the ones that do that, they're doing it by choice. They are choosing what systems of ideas they want to honor. So there's a sadness you can get into realizing some people will take the Phantom course. But there's also beyond that a recognition of this is a choice that they're making. They might not be making it on a conscious level, but if their conscious level here is approached with the opportunity to make a different choice, but they still choose not to, that's still a choice, and their higher parts are making that choice too. Eventually, everybody and everything comes home. So nothing is ever really lost. It can experience itself as lost for a very long time. But in truth, nothing is lost. So it helps to know that as we move into a transition cycle like we're in right now. We're in a transition period on this planet. Some people are going to go one path, some are going to go another path. There's several paths that people are going to go on. If we work with our D12 frequency, we can at least guarantee that our personal selves are going to be on the path of integrating our Christos and of a free society. We may end up in the Terran probabilities, we may end up in the inner Earth probabilities for a while, or we may end up in complete ascension, depending on what's in our DNA templates. If you only came in with a 12-strand DNA template, you can ascend all the way up to density 4, but at that point you would adopt another template, more template, and you would experience yourself in a race line of the pre-matter liquid light races, and then you would get the rest of your indigo template. People that came in with the indigo template would have the ability, to, if they activated everything, to literally go out of time. But I know a lot of the indigos aren't planning to do that. This was just one stop in the matrix that needed some help, one time frame. A lot of us are going to go to the Terran time cycles in the next octave up to fix some stuff there and work with some groups there. And then we're going to go up excuse me, into the Gaian time cycles of density 3. So it's like taking the slow way of ascension, where you get to see the tour. I remember the one time I ascended as Miriam, it happened so fast. It's like I blew myself out of matter so fast, I didn't even get to see the scenery going by. It was just, you know, there's certain ways you work the codes and you work your Merkaba, and you can feel this ripple run through you. And there's like this static, and then there's no sound, and then there's a pop. And then you end up somewhere else. But if you go all the way out, there's a pop and this like a exhale. And you find yourself as like a field of consciousness that feels like it could go on forever. But it has no images, no sounds, just direct cognition. It's like knowing the universe personally, touching every inch of it, but seeing nothing and hearing nothing. And I remember getting back and thinking, oh, I made it, oh great. Boy, that happened fast. It went so fast I couldn't even record in my matrix as I was going up. The scenery going by, it's like taking a train ride. That it went so fast you didn't get to see the pretty scenery that was outside the windows. So there are some paths that are being offered to the indigos that have to do, and to humans who want to go up to the, you know, the density 2 or density 3, to take the slow way, but the slow comfortable way, the slow Christos pathway, which means we would begin to not only set the foundations like we're doing here, but begin to experience and kind of like getting a reward for all the work we did down here, get to experience being a member of a Christed civilization. That things like money don't exist in those civilizations. They don't need objectifications of power like that. That's just something people can play games with, taking power from each other with. They're based on cooperation and love. A Christos society is an amazing experience when you've been out of one for a while. It's almost alien. Like, wow, are they always that nice? Yeah. They wouldn't think of being any other way.
It's like coming to Calgary.
Yes, it's like coming to Calgary. You're right. Very good. Yes, minus the turnstile grids. So there's going to be a lot of options. Some of us will take our bodies that we have this time with us on those options. Other of us, depending on a lot of circumstances, it'll be a personal experience that you and your own avatar level will decide whether you're going to take your body into ascension or whether it's just easier to drop that one if there's too much stuff that needs to be fixed. Sometimes it's easier to drop it, but transmute it as you drop it, not just bury it in the ground. Transmute it, take the energy signature with you, and then, you know, go into another cycle where you would enter a fetal integration point in one of your simultaneous lives and experience that one. So there's going to be a lot of options available to us. But in the meantime, we're on a planet that's going through a drama like it hasn't seen in thousands of years. The mainstream people have no idea that these things could even exist. Even the science fiction writers, this stuff is a stretch for. In fact, there's a couple of them that seem to be interested in the Voyager's work. Like, they see movie potential. Right? Oh, here we go. Yeah, like, oh boy, Voyager's, version 20. You can see it. How would you even translate this stuff into movies? But it is a movie in a way. It's a walking hologram, and we're all a part of it. It's a hologram. It's kind of funny here because technically we're the masters of our hologram, but we're just trying to figure out what that means and remember how to do it. And meanwhile, our hologram can run over us, particularly when the planet is processing planetary and race karmic patterns, which is what's happening. Karmic miasmic patterns, reversals and distortions in the scalar templates that take the experience of the hologram out of the original divine blueprint and what was intended for it. If we work with the round tables, we are helping in a huge, huge way. We've left a massive energy form out there that is absolutely beautiful. It looks like a carousel made of light, and it's still spinning, and it will be spinning for a long time. There's going to be one that matches it very soon, popping up in the middle of Lake, not Lorraine, Lake, don't know why Lorraine is on the brain. I really don't. Lorraine on the brain. But there's going to be a matching one that I think it takes, what do they say, about 72 hours it'll take for that form. It actually didn't leave here. It replicated. It went through the witness and transmitted the replicate pattern out to the other receiver of the witness, which was another small one of those glass pyramids that we put in as an electrical Merkaba shape. They each had the Vecca codes in them, and it was the Vecca code link that empowered this round table. The round tables are getting easier because before, when we didn't have availability of the Vecca codes are dependent upon the four faces of man grid activating in parallel and in inner Earth. If they don't activate, we can't run those codes here. So finally, there are activation levels that are allowing progressively the Vecca codes to be able to be used in the grids here. So our round tables will get easier and easier. As far as activating currents in our body, it'll get easier and easier. In a little bit, I'll talk about how the vector codes work with the body. Some of you have already heard this if you were in the Cathara workshop. Others of you haven't, so I'll do a recap on it. There's also a reprint of some of the information that was put in the Cathara supplement that has to do with the Vecca codes and with radial body healing, because if you've been in the Cathara workshop, so you have 2 copies of that stuff. But if you haven't, the people who haven't, at least you have a copy, so you know what you can read it and find out more about radial bodies and find out more about Vecca codes. The real course that's going to take us into Vecca code technologies, which are advanced Merkaba technologies, is going to be the Dance of Life course. I haven't seen it yet either, but it's supposed to be down by the end of this month. Scary thought. So this is just the beginning of using a technology that will progressively help us to heal, help our planet to heal, but also progressively become more fun to use. Some of the techniques that we've had to use to begin the manual activation of the currents in our bodies are very long and time-consuming. This is because we've been fighting the distortions in the planetary grid, so we had to manually keep putting the right pattern back. The more the planetary grids heal, the more they'll support us, the more they'll hold the right patterns in our body when we put them there, so we won't have to work so hard all the time. It will get easier eventually. The Vecca codes are a huge jump as far as the ease with which we can begin to work with the primal life force currents in the divine blueprint. Now, I wanted to go back to this page here, because this is the sequence of events that takes us into understanding what happened on September 11th in the United States. Okay, where's my little pointer thing? I lost my pointer again. There it is. I keep losing that. I lose it and then it finds me. All right. So I just want to cover this series of events because it leads to this event down here, September 11th, 2000. Most people have no idea that this was part of, it was a step of advancement of the United Resistance Illuminati agenda. It marked the beginning of activations of some of their APIN systems. The reason the trade centers aren't there anymore is because they happen to be in the way of something called a Phoenix Spike Site. A Phoenix Spike Site is a crystal implant site that's connected to the Phoenix wormhole. They're trying to activate all the grids that are connected to the wormholes, and then they want to expand the wormholes into one big wormhole. That, combined with the effects the Jehovian seals releasing, will literally rip our planetary grids apart, and we will watch over the next number of years the Earth changes begin and pick up speed. Now, every time we do a round table, we make a counterbalance. We make it more possible for that outcome that the fallen angelics are trying to create here not to happen. The more we reset the divine blueprint, the more protection the planet has. The more it heals, the more we heal, the more protection we have, etc. This is interesting. On August of 2000, this is when we went to Peru. Supposedly, the Treaty of Altair was holding, and the Anunnaki that had defected from the Pleiadian-Syrian agreements decided they'd be nice again and came back, right? And it was like, well, we hope. They made the agreement. It was called the Treaty of Altair. That was on July 5th of 2000. In August, in fulfillment of the role, in the roles and the agreements of the Treaty of Altair, we were asked to go to Peru, and this is where we were going to run the frequencies, and the Anunnakis races had agreed to turn over the Nibiru Datta crystal grid to their to the founders races and to the guardian races, so they could get the grids recoded more quickly into the divine blueprint, so the place didn't roll when the stargates progressively opened. All right, this was a wonderful Peru trip. It went so wonderfully. There was just like love and peace and harmony all through the whole thing. It was very unlike our second Peru trip. Oh boy. All right, the Emerald Covenant and Indigo races, advanced 12 code plus pulse clearings. We were actually asked to activate 3 sites at Machu Picchu, which were anchoring spots for the 3 primal Kiriche currents, the pale turquoise blue flame, the pale yellow gold flame, and the pale magenta pink violet flame. There are 3 anchoring posts there. Machu Picchu is the location of Stargate 5, and it was the beginning of its activation cycle. And there was a lot of councils of people there that you didn't see, and there were groups of us, and there are other groups there too, interestingly, that were attempting to counteract what we were doing. Remember? But they didn't try too hard. They just were annoying. But it all went very, very well, and there was just a real peace feeling about it. The Treaty of Altair was still holding, and the Anunnaki weren't trying to do anything nasty. They had actually turned over part of the coding for the Nibiru and Dodic crystal grid over to the Guardian races, and we had begun to recalibrate Stargate 4 to clear, the solar Merkaba, so that gate could start spinning the right way, and that would, help the planet to get its Merkaba back. And it seemed to be going well. It would have taken 3 months, 3 months for what we did here as far as anchoring the primal Kiriche currents and getting the Nibiru and Dodic crystal grid and the solar gate fully under Guardian protection, for that to phase lock in the grids, which means for what we put in before it can be altered again, where it just phase locks and you can't do anything about it, it's going to run. There's a period of time that it has to build up and kind of amplify its own frequency before it will phase lock in the grids. We thought everything was fine, had a nice Peru trip, came back. We had an England trip scheduled. After that, we were supposed to start going literally directly over to work with, that was when we were supposed to have the Nibiru and Dodic crystal grid completely turned over to Guardian protection, and we were there, our group was called to go there, to run the D12 frequency to literally recode the Stonehenge grids. And it was supposed to be all peaceful. The Anunnaki races had agreed to protect our groups from interference from the Draconian races and the other Anunnaki that weren't in the Treaty of Altair. And they had promised, secured grids, which means we could go over there and we could teach Cathara and do Kundalini activations without subjecting anybody to any harm coming to them. Because you don't want to do Kundalini activations when people are just starting to know how to do that on insecure grids. If psychotronics can be thrown through that, which are distorted frequencies, scalar pulse frequencies to mess with your field, it would be irresponsible as a teacher to knowingly take someone into grids that were dangerous and just teach a beginning class of how to open their fields. Not a good place to do it. So we were going to introduce Cathara in England, and we began to do that. And I think we'd finished one workshop in London, and the next one was in Manchester. And we got nailed with psychotronics like I've never felt. And it was directed at me. They actually used a couple people in the audience that had implants from the Mycomatrix, which I didn't know at the time, they were part of like a larger soul collective that I was a part of. So they had a similar template to my template. They actually ran it through their fields to get to mine. And it ripped holes in my Merkaba. I was amazed when I said, what in the world? And literally my equilibrium I completely got dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out. I was nauseous, made me very sick, like instantly. Got that taken care of and said, what in the world is going on? So I thought we were in safe space here, And we got kind of like, emergency just in. You've got to cancel the tour. You've got to go back. We'll tell you when you get back. Didn't know until we got back from England that the Treaty of Altair had been broken. The Anunnaki had defected. They joined the United Resistance. And if that all wasn't bad enough, the whole bunch of them together issued an edict of war against the founders. They had given the founders an ultimatum that they could take 50,000 of their indigo children, High Council people, off planet safely, but they were to leave everybody else alone into their hands, where the rest was going into Phantom. And basically the founders told them, I don't think so. Don't try to blackmail the founders. It's not very intelligent. So basically they picked a war with us. It's not what our side wants. It's not, we never wanted to be sides because we always looked at them as part of our collectives anyway and always will. But this is where the drama got intense. All this good stuff that was done here was undone because it hadn't set in the grids yet. In October, it would have set in the grids, and they wouldn't have been able to change the fact that they'd handed the things over. But because they pulled it out in September of 2000, in this period, there was nothing we could do about it except go to Plan B, which was Solar Stargate 4 had to be healed. It had to be corrected and put back under Guardian protection, or that would cause the place to go in a pole shift. Even if the Anunnaki races did nothing else, just left it the way it was, it would have created pole shift. So, because they were not cooperating, the Anunnaki groups were not cooperating, we had to basically be sent on missions to begin running the D12 frequency to recode the grids as rapidly as possible to the divine blueprint. There had been an agreement made with the Anunnaki races that they knew with recoding the divine blueprint, the Anunnaki and the Draconian races have known for a long, long time. That meant if the full D12 divine blueprint was anchored in this planet, Christos' mission fulfilled, it meant the Phantom Matrix would be closed. They would not be able to draw frequency from here anymore, and they would be locked on the other side, and they would not be able to survive on this side if they didn't get bioregenesis to get the 12th subharmonics back in their DNA template. This was known for a long time. Okay, well, I'll speed through this. Come on, because we want to get to that. Anyway, yeah. It's like, okay, all right. That should be interesting. I don't know what it is yet, the meditation is yet, but I know I went there last night, and it was really funny when Az and I were working on the map to get these grids through, to get the Canadian grids through. I closed my eyes and just tried to like stretch my energy out and relax. I didn't try to project anywhere, and all of a sudden I flipped, like a part of myself went, and it was someplace else, while this part was still awake on the bed going, oh, this is neat. That was fast. I mean, I didn't try anything. So I was like aware of myself on the bed and aware of Az sitting next to me. He was working on the map, and I found myself in this kind of comfortably dim-lit room, and it was the particular room that the Mahabharata text, the big books, are kept in. And there was a book on this table, and I knew I was supposed to go over to it, and I went over to it and started leafing through it, and I knew there was a page I was looking for that had the ancient turnstile maps that were there. This is how we got them, but what was really funny is as I'm trying to focus that part of my consciousness to see the pages of the books, at the same time, the Az is getting it and translating it right onto the map. It was amazing, because I kind of like put that on hold for a minute, like, wait a minute, I got to find out where something is, because I was trying to make a reference that I knew was on the map here. So I wanted to like hold that a minute, come back and see, and then compare it to the book is what I wanted to do. Well, when I opened my eyes and I asked Az if I could see the map, he'd already started drawing them just like I was seeing them in the book. So it was really neat. It was like kind of one of those, oh, that was cool. Yeah, we're getting good. Didn't even know we could do that. Yeah. So there's an invitation that's going to be extended with the meditation that we're going to do tonight. It's not going to be a long meditation because it's not in written form, which means if we do it once, you might get there once, but if there's a lot of steps to it, it's going to be hard to remember without having to like try to get the video and then try to, catch it off the video, where you write it down. It's not going to be a long one. They're going to teach us how to use an access code to the halls of Amente where we can take our consciousness first. And your mind's got to be able to go before your body ever will. So this is the beginning. Where we're going to be, and I've never met a group that was invited to the library before. So this is pretty neat. This is like a new level. This may be a new thing. Maybe they'll invite, other people too. I'm sure they will. But this is the first time they've ever made invitations to the libraries. When I was very small, I was taken there and shown them. And I was taken there in physical form as well, through Merkaba. And it was like almost like one of those Baba silence things, that it was just one of the parts I was not ever allowed to really speak about. I could have, but it would have been breaking an agreement. They wouldn't get mad at me. They wouldn't punish me. But they'd be careful the next time they trusted me with, the secret information. So I had kept the books and my experience of them. I mean, I can remember the texture of them and feeling the leather on them that is still as supple as the day it was put on them. They're amazing books. So we're going to end this tonight with a quick journey meditation using the Ruche part of the Akasha Code, which is that center part. That's the programming center. And I don't know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be whispered in my ear as we go. But it's a technique that you can use with that Veka code, the Akasha Veka code in the center part of it, to get there yourselves and to start working with the books and finding things out. And if you get there and you don't, say, okay, I'm here, what do I do? You see these 590 volumes of these massive books. What now? You can ask for assistance. There are like resident librarians. The Iani guard these things, and you can ask for somebody. You can even ask if you have an Iani self there. If you have, a self that looks like you that lives there, which would imply you're an indigo. If they happen to say, yeah, you do have one. If somebody, and it's funny because if you ask a question there in your own head, right, some part of you will answer yourself, and you will hear yourself better. So it'll be like, yes, you have a self here, or no, you don't have a self here, you have one over there, though. So it's a place where you can start to get clear communication, but it also is a place where you can start to access information from the true history records. These were the translations, the original translations of the CDD plates. Now, there's a translation process that would happen if you looked at them exactly as they were, which you will. They're in the Mua language. They're in the Anahazi language, and it wouldn't make sense to you in a normal state of consciousness. However, if you are in that space, when you use the Akasha, to use the Akasha, you have to use the D12 frequency. You're taking yourself into a space of multilingual translation. So you can look at the page, you may see letters and stuff that you don't understand first, and then you can almost watch it kind of go, and translate into your own home language, so you can actually read it in your own language. So it's really neat. So anyway, we'll get through this so we can get to the end, which we'll have that as our thank you. I think it's a thank you gift for the work that we've done here. All right, but I just would like you to understand the ickiness a bit of the Illuminati agenda and what they're up to. All right, so up through here, we had the nice Peru trip. Then here's where the Treaty of Altair started to get broken. September 12th is when it was officially broken and the Edict of War was issued against the founders. May 1st, 2000 is when we were called on the Crisis Intervention Mission, and progressively we were given roundtable material. Like this was supposed to be given later, 2006-ish, but they were giving it to us early so we could begin to counteract what was being done to the grids to bring the Divine Blueprint in. So we opened the Halls of Amaray Passage and helped them open Stargate 6, or anchor the opening of Stargate 6. Universal Stargate 6, the Sirius B gate. So Sirius B gate literally started transmitting frequency down the halls of Amaray Passage into the Earth's grid, anchoring it into the Q-Site 12 at Kauai, Hawaii, where the halls of Amaray Passage comes down, and that would progressively send it over to Stargate 12, and that would send it back to Q-Site 11, and that would go back to Stargate 11, then to Q10, Stargate 10. This is how the frequencies work in a stellar activation cycle. But it was activated early. This created a situation that is at the end of your, somewhere in there, I have to see what pages it's on, but there's the expedited Amente opening schedule, where the halls of Amente Stargates were supposed to open in 2012. They're, I believe, going to open now between 2003 and 2006. So everything is accelerating, including the drama. Now, August 12th, 2001, we started a mass awakening on a mass level. The humans on the planet began DNA 12 code awakening because we had managed to get enough D12 frequency subharmonics in the grid through opening the halls of Amaraya. This is where the fallen angelics started to get nervous with their plan, because if everybody awakened before they could get a frequency fence in to stop the DNA, they'd be able to, first of all, begin to see D4 and realize we're not alone here. They would be able to start remembering who they were, and the game would be up a lot more quickly, because they have been living under the cloak of invisibility for thousands of years. They've manipulated us from behind the scenes. So, because they were getting nervous, because we were so close to hitting a critical mass D12 activation in the planetary grids, where it would have cleared their programming, so we're running through, they began countermeasures. Now, August 12th, they began, the United Intruder Resistance expedites the One World Order First Contact Invasion agenda. They have a First Contact Invasion agenda where, is that a spaceship? I think it is. That kind of drama, okay? They accelerate the Montauk Phi X Falcon APIN activation, okay? That's the Montauk Phi X wormhole system that's plugged into the larger Falcon APIN system and Falcon wormhole. They began activation of this more quickly than they'd originally intended to initiate Phoenix, Serpent, Dove APIN and Falcon wormhole link. So that's when they decided, okay, to counteract the fact that the Divine Blueprint is getting set here right out from under us. We didn't even think the humans would be able to give us a run for our money. They figured we'd be literally either such zombies that we would just help them fulfill the negative agenda, or we wouldn't even be alive on the planet by this time. And this was a surprise. How'd they do that? You know, there's not that many of them. Hardly any of them are awake. How'd they do that? You know? And there's one thing they tend to do is they underestimate people who they choose to call their adversaries. If you're going to call someone an adversary, don't get yourself in trouble by underestimating their abilities. If you're going to make a counter stand against somebody like that, and you decide that you want to pick a fight with them, don't underestimate what they're capable of, particularly if all they're doing is not fighting back at all. They're just standing in their divine blueprint and beaming frequency. That's the hardest fight to win. If you're on the other side of that, good luck, because it's not a fight. You're getting love beamed at you. Right? Yeah. The greatest weapon in the world is love, because it heals. Okay, so they began the activation of the Montauk Phi-X Falcon APIN system because they want to initiate the Phoenix Serpent Dove APIN connection to the Falcon wormhole. So they're trying to put all the APIN systems together and get them activated and plugged into each other and expand the Phoenix and Falcon wormholes to become one big wormhole, because that will allow so much frequency on the reverse current to come through that will be very hard to build critical mass D12 in the grids. Okay, let's see. Okay. The United Intruder Resistance launched 2 ultra-low frequency sonic amplification slow pulses from Chihuahua, Mexico, and Lake Titicaca, Peru. All right, I'll show you the map on this, the projection line on this in a minute after we're done with this page. Okay, these were the Niberian Crystal Temple bases, the one that they have at Lake Titicaca, Stargate 7, and Chihuahua, Mexico, which is around, runs off Q Site 4. Okay, so these are 2 areas that they are manipulating. They have active in the grids, and they are manipulating pulses through. Oh yeah, yeah, Stargate places and Q Site places, sacred places. All right, then September 3rd, 2001. So here, on August 12th, they began to release the pulses, slow pulses, which means they take a while to get to the destination. Okay, September 3rd, 2001. The Mexico Sonic Amplification Slow Pulse passes through Stargate 2 Gruel Point in Sarasota, Florida. Just happened to be when we were there doing a round, and we got hit with it. Didn't know what it was. The Guardians hadn't realized it was released yet because they have scramble grids up now, where the Guardians are trying to track what's going on here in the grids, but it's like putting a scramble pattern, an electromagnetic pattern that makes it very difficult to see what the grids are actually doing. So the Guardians are trying to figure, uh-oh, they did something. What did they do? Where's it coming from? Where's it going to hit? You know, they knew they did something, but they hadn't been able to catch it fast enough to give us warning that we were going to get hit with it in the round table. And we tend to in a round table because we have, Az and I have a contract that we have, it's kind of like the mother hen, father hen syndrome. We're with a group of people that are learning. Our fields are like a buffer field. So the people, even if they don't know how to open their fields or stabilize their Merkabas yet, our fields are used to do that, and the Yanni help us to do that. So we absorbed it. It didn't really hurt anybody else. There was a few people that said they felt something weird run through, and it kind of, you know, what was that? But it gave us a run for our money. We recovered from it. I mean, it didn't, you know, wipe us out or anything. It wasn't even directed at us. It was part of a bigger plan. Okay, so when it ran through Sarasota, Florida, this was the pulse that was sent from Mexico, ran through Sarasota, Florida, as the Indigos assembled for an RRT to realign the Sarasota, Florida, and Bermuda Niberian Crystal Temple bases. Just so happened to mess up our round table, so we didn't get enough frequency generated, so we could recode those 2 Niberian Crystal Temple bases that we were doing then. Now, the Toth Enki Zeta Nibiru and Anunnaki group were the ones who sent the Chihuahua, Mexico pulses. They sent an extra little package for us of a psychotronic rapid release pulse. They sent it along the same line, following the other slow pulse, but they sent it in fast to kind of like, you know, knock us for a loop. Okay, so that's our old buddy Toth. Okay, they sent it along the amplification slow pulse frequency to attack the RRT group in hope of preventing the September 3rd RRT. RRT was partially successful, which means we got part of what we were trying to accomplish, which was recoding the Bermuda Niberian Crystal Temple base and the Sarasota one. We got part of it done. We had to pick it up later and do another one to finish it. Here's where it gets interesting. September 7th, 2001. The sonic amplification slow pulse continues along ley line 4 to intersect and bond with the Titicaca sonic amplification slow pulse. So they sent one from ley line 4 going horizontal, another going up axiotonal 7 from Titicaca going vertical, and they intersected. Okay, every time you do that, I lose track of myself. Okay, all right. So intersected with the Titicaca pulse on axiotonal line 7, longitude, 70 west longitude. The bonded sonic pulse, which means the two pulses that bonded together, were drawn through the Phoenix and Falcon wormholes to Stargate 3, Bermuda, which is a Zeta Regalian Niberian Crystal Temple base. The sonic amplification pulse charge collected at the Bermuda Niberian Crystal Temple base. So they sent these two charges together. They end up braiding together to become stronger, move through the wormholes to pick up what are called phantom charges, which are literally reverse matrix charges that come through, from the phantom to amplify it more, sent it up into Stargate 3 in the Bermuda base and held it there. And then what they did with it after this was very interesting. September 11th, 2001. World Trade Center, Pentagon, United Resistance, World War III trigger event. Sonic amplification pulse combined, the one was stored, combined with what is called a trumpet long-range remote pulses from Phantom Cirrus A, Arcturus, and Trapezium Orion. They come through the Dove APIN system. The Voyager's book gets into telling you, how in biblical revelations there's 7 angels, 7 trumpets, all sorts of 7 angels and trumpets and all sorts of beasts and thingies like that. Think about the beasts. How did they do them in the Bible? They went with the APIN systems. They were referring to the APIN systems, the beast before the thrones of God, all this stuff. They're talking about the APIN system beasts, and they parallel. And I forget what the things are. That's why it's worth reading if you want to find out about it. It's worth reading in the Voyager's book. But anyway, the trigger event was done by sonic pulse amplification, was combined with a trumpet pulse, which is an extremely powerful pulse that can be released from the phantom matrix from certain bases that have very specialized scalar pulse, reverse scalar pulse technologies. Okay. 3 amplified rapid fire. Now the other ones were slow release, right? Took them a while to get to their destination. These guys were amplified rapid fire combined trumpet pulses plus the slow pulses that they had originally sent that were stored in Bermuda. Okay? They created subspace sonic pulses when they blend them together. It was sent from the Bermuda base to New York and DC targets via the Montauk, Philadelphia APIN sites of the Montauk Phi-X Falcon, what is called port interface system, which is, Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk project opened those things up. That's what they were for. That's why they had conducted them. The 4th trumpet pulse, there's supposed to be a 4th one, was not sent. It was supposed to be sent to a trigger site in Philadelphia. Didn't make it. It wasn't sent because the terrorist plane cloak event didn't make it to the site. This whole thing was arranged to give a cover because the trade centers happened to be standing on what's called a spike site, a Phoenix spike site, which are part of the Phoenix APIN systems. They needed to be activated. They needed to activate those specific grids, and the only way to do it was to blast them with subspace sonic pulse. Now, if you do that, and you have to do it at that level, anything that's sitting on top of that landmass, it better be pretty strong because it's literally going to implode in on itself from what the sonic pulses do. They're much stronger than like an explosive put inside of a building. The reason the towers came down as fast as they did, where planes didn't just hit these things. I remember, we walked into it while we were out that morning, and we had come in and turned on the TV, and there it was, and they hadn't fallen yet. The towers hadn't fallen yet, and I remember keeping the news on, going, oh my God, look at this, what's up? They warned us, this was September 11th, they had warned us on September 3rd that game was on. Like, uh-oh. And I remember watching, and it was like one of those images that will stick in my mind forever. They just went, and they were gone. It was like, I didn't know buildings could do that. That was, when you look at it with a morbid fascination, it was like, how in the world could a plane that hit here do that? It couldn't. And these were cover events that were staged. I'm not going to bother saying by who other than that it was the Illuminati, because it's not worth pointing fingers and naming names. People can figure it out. They're already starting to do that from what I see on some kind of talk show up here in Canada. Remember we caught it on the TV? And there were some very interesting questions being asked about what might be going on in America and why certain things were being investigated certain ways and not in other ways. And, you know, so I'm not going to take that any further on film. Yeah. Channel 24? It might have been on there. I don't remember. We were flipping through it one night. Oh, that's... Oh, okay. Okay, it might be the same one, because they were doing a series of them. You know, they had it as a topic, and then they decided to extend it as like a serial or something. But anyway, this is what happened with the trade centers. Let's see, in a minute I'll show you the projection map just so you see it. All right, the fourth trumpet pulse wasn't sent, so Philadelphia got out of it. Because there's another one under, I think it's Independence Hall. There's another spike site there that eventually somebody's going to need to activate to get these grids activated. When you start to realize the important areas in the grids as far as activating these APIN systems, you can start to see where interesting activity is going to take place. Now, they haven't told us anything yet, but they didn't tell us exactly what was going to happen with this either. They didn't say, oh my God, they're going to come in. They did say that when they found out exactly what the plan was, that they had made, the Guardians have contacts in several different countries that weren't the states. They said that they actually contacted them and had them call and make, you know, warning calls, and they were all blown off by the government, that they were just, you know, treated as frauds when they tried to warn them. But they didn't find out until like the 11th hour, until it was too late, because the Illuminati had the grids scrambled. So the Guardians were trying to tap in and find out what was happening in the grids. This has been going on ever since we were foolish enough to plug our grids into the Nibiru Dadic crystal grid so we could cap the Falcon wormhole way back when the Anunnaki decided they were going to be nice. So it's interesting. Usually, too, we won't be given so much information about stuff like this that it'll get us killed. Because there are certain things that I know about the situation and the details that I know I don't want to know. And that's very fine with the Guardians as well. It's not information that I'm going to carry, and it's not information I would tell anyone, because as soon as you would have that information as far as names and who's who and how they did what and what they're planning next, that's when you become a problem to the Illuminati directly. That's when issues start happening in your life, and it's not worth it. We're not here to pick fights. We're here to heal the planet. Okay? So we try to keep it focused on there. Yes?
Is it visible? Can you see it as a ray? Because there were some shots of the tower falling, and there was definitely red lines running through the sky.
Okay. Sometimes you can. With a trumpet pulse, you might be able to. I haven't got into asking them. I do think certain types of film can pick them up. Like, they probably can be seen from satellite images, I would think, or at least some of the effects that they generate. We haven't asked much about, you know, can we get these on film? That was another area that I've been kind of like, well, if it comes, fine, but I'm not going to go looking for it, because what if I did? All right, what if I had the visual proof? Right now, I'm just talking about it, putting it out as an idea. It's a theory. If I could prove this completely and solidly and had photographic evidence to prove it, that's when we would be in trouble. And we don't need to do that. Okay? But there are... Yeah, go ahead.
There is something I want to say
okay.
Just about this, just very quickly. Just something I wanted to point out to people, because the channel tends to be very, well, just say nice and humble about it. This section finishes with the beginning of a story. It is the most macabre and disturbing story, in which you can do this thing. You can go to the book of Revelation and read it again if you haven't already done so. You can take Voyages 2 and read the section, and you can observe the manipulation, the distortion, and the insult that is written into that book. You can see exactly a living example of manipulation and control and lying and deceit. And it's done with such a kind of
glee,
almost lascivious glee,
yeah.
Because we're so stupid.
That's how they look at us.
Please, if you can borrow a copy of Voyages 2 if necessary, but go to the section where the book of Revelation is taken to pieces completely, and it's put back together again in the way that tells the truth, and compare and look at how they've twisted and distorted it.
And the insult in what they've done, because they describe the plan.
Yep,
They
put it
describe
right
what
in our
they're going to
face.
do to humans in the book of Revelation. And you read back from Voyages 2 to the book of Revelation, it is the most appalling experience. It really is. You just, everything about what we're saying, about the way we've been misled, controlled, abused, and everything else, the evidence, the physical evidence is right there. The one place where you can see it in a lot of detail.
It's like a whole new level of the Bible code when you start to actually just see what they were saying. And we've only actually translated like a small portion of it, the portion that directly plugs into what's happening now, because we need to know about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We need to know about the angels, the 7 angels, and especially the 7 trumpets. Those trumpets, look out for those trumpets. The trumpets are technology. So can you imagine the biblical revelation story, as sweet as it sounded, with all these beasts before the throne of God and all these angels and these candles, and wow, this imagery is just lovely and wonderful. What's so disappointing is to find out that they're talking about the beasts of the APIN systems. There's a whole translation of the angels don't even mean angels. They don't even mean ETs the way they're using them. They're part of the technologies. These books were written for the Illuminati races, the few among the many, that would be told of the translations, where they would know what to look for. It was like a message passed on from the Atlantean period. There were certain ones that would carry the information where they could read that and they'd know what it meant. So it's a very interesting experience to begin reading, just those sections of Revelation that we have, that we have gone through. Anyway, oops, yes? I'm sorry, that what?
That Bush was in Sarasota the night before the day. That's what we found out about the World Trade Center. He was in Sarasota.
The Bush was there?
President.
Oh, the president.
Yeah.
I imagine there probably was a reason. I haven't asked about it because that's one of those, teaching kindergarten people. It's probably so he could be someplace where it was very visible and he was doing something very nice so nobody ever think he had anything to do with it. So they can catch him going, got to go fix this, national crisis, I'm not, I won't go into the political stuff because it's not worth going into the political stuff. I mean, in our personal lives we have our ideas and opinions and guidance, but it's not something to be spoken about in the public arenas unless we want to get our head put in a noose, so. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that this was the beginning. The terrorist attacks are cloak events. There was also experiments to see if this type of technology would work in Waco, Texas. There were certain things being done there that had to do with the same type of thing, and especially the Oklahoma bombing, the Oklahoma City bombing. That whole thing was contrived as a cover because that was another grid they were going to attempt to activate. It was a test to see if they could do the bigger grids. So there's a lot more going on right under our noses that we don't even realize is going on because we're told it means something else. Best way to hide something. This is just a projection map. You can, kind of look at it more on your own because I don't want to keep us here till 2 o'clock in the morning. But it just shows, let's see. All right, you have the Stargate 5 is here in Machu Picchu. You have Lake Titicaca, Stargate 7. This makes axiotonal 7 here. So that was the projection line up to there. Here's the 2 wormholes here. You have the Phoenix and the Falcon wormholes. And over here, you have the Chihuahua, Mexico crystal temple networks. And they're actually connected to parallel Stargate 3 and to Q-Site 4. They're in the same areas, and they're running frequency from them. So this one came up, was projected up from here, up on, this is actually a parallel Earth 3-9 line, okay? And again, this map, if you want to know more about what these numbers mean, look on that other map that has all the lines on it and numbers because it gives you the key to what they mean. This one traveled up here and then picked up the Giza line, which is L410. Okay, L410 is ley line 410. There's actually 4 and 10, but they run so closely together that they call it 410. This one comes right across here, goes right above and cuts through a bit of the Gruel point, which is Stargate 2. Goes right over and intersects with the Phoenix wormhole and the Falcon wormholes up here. So these 2 pulses, the slow pulses, met here, were amplified and braided together, and then they were stored in Stargate 3 and held here. And the trumpet pulses were then released from the wormholes, combined with these, and then sent on this projectile over into the Phi-X grids, which are all up and down the East Coast. So this is literally how they did it. And there were others. When they were doing the Waco, like the Waco line, the Oklahoma City line, these places line up on the planetary grids. They're scalar projection lines, and they're scalar pulse technologies that are going on. You know, literally, they have been going on since the Zetas got here 70 years ago, more than 70 years ago. So this just explains, and the boxes here explain what I just read to you. It explains how it was done. It's kind of interesting to notice, though, this 410 line. It goes through Giza, Egypt, and it connects into, which one is this? This is Stargate, that's 4. Okay, 10's down here. This one's the Egypt one, yeah. This is the gate 4. This one over here is gate 10. That's why it's called the 410 line, because it's running horizontally out of there. Very interesting is Giza has always been, the Great Pyramid of Giza has always been a major control grid. This is why, because you can access all sorts of things with it. Anyway, that was what happened with the trade centers. It was a trigger event marking the beginning of the activation of the APIN systems. They are going to continue to do things, but they can't keep having buildings fall down. That would be a little too obvious. So there's going to be several things. There's very interesting ways to make things get destroyed by making it look like it was something else. You can have wars. You can have little terrorist events here and there. You can have natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, those kind of things. They've been experimenting, the Zeta races, with the Illuminati that have been working with them, have been experimenting for 70 years with scalar pulse technologies to see if they could create earthquakes and hurricanes and weather issues in targeted areas, droughts, those kind of things, controlling weather patterns through scalar pulse technology. And they have managed to go quite far with this technology. In the Voyager's book, there's a list of just a sample of the earthquakes in the last, how many years around there? I forget, from 1900 or something?
Yeah, I think the last 50 or something like that.
Yeah, last 50 or 70 or something years of just some of the earthquakes activity that was attributed to the scalar pulse technologies. Alaska's been being hit with them all the time because Alaska's on some major grids. If you look at the map that we showed you earlier that has the turnstiles on it and begin to draw those lines, if you take them down where you extend them out as far as they could go to the edge of the paper, you'll start to see that there's a lot of stuff going on in Alaska. Part of what's happening here too is the intersection. We have our ley lines and grid lines, axiotonal lines. So does parallel Earth and so does inner Earth, and they actually interface. So there are places on the grids that you wouldn't think had anything going on, but they actually are places where they're most active places on parallel Earth. So there's a lot to grid technologies, but this is the beginning of understanding what it's about. Let's see, where do I want to go quickly? Oh, I think I want to go to radial body so we can go through that quick, and then we can go into the meditation before I'm too tired to even run it. And everybody else is too tired to go. We'll get you there and you won't come back because you'll fall asleep in the library. Yeah, it's going to be a simple one. All right, what's being said to me is that we'll give you the technique. We'll run it through quick, but it's meant to take it home and play with it. Like when you go to sleep tonight, if you want to go on a little journey, it's a good place to go. So it's being given for that purpose, where there's a real personal thing about it. Like it's something that it's not the whole group's supposed to do together. It's a very personal thing that each person who wants to and feels ready, one at a time. It's like you're establishing a personal relationship with this place and with whoever might come and say hi to you in this place. All right. I just want to do...